But wow, talk about a weekend of highs and lows. I mean, wow. Race one, for those that might not have seen it, ended really quickly, poor bugger. But you've redeemed yourself in this one. So talk us through it. How are those emotions?
It was pretty hard. Started from rear grid, but we still maintained our pit stop penalty we had to serve, so thought it was nearly impossible. The car started overheating before the compulsory pit stop, so we're trying to manage that. It was, it's getting really hot because of the engine change we did yesterday, so obviously we got a leak somewhere. So we managed that the whole race, and then that safety car came out at the end, made it worse. So the car got even up to about 125 degrees. So I don't know, we're just trying to manage the car really and maintain our pace as best we could with lower shifting and whatever we could anyway. It's a great result.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we just touch on briefly in race one for you what happened there?
I just had a bit of a coming together with one of the Ferraris, and it broke a component on the rear axle. So that put us out of the race straight away. Turn two, we didn't even get a lap in. So it was pretty disappointing after the guys spent all night putting the motor in. So I don't know. Well, this just shit happens.
Funny old caper, this motor racing, isn't it? The highs and lows, and you've lived it, but you'll sleep well tonight, I'm sure.
Well, a couple of beers will be right. Thanks. Good work.
John Goodacre taking the opportunity to congratulate his crew down there, Ryan McLeod and the rest of the crew who are involved with Mark Carr's outfit. No time for a break here in commentary though, because we've got the cars in our next race rolling out onto the circuit now. Race number 3 coming up for the Performax TA2 Muscle Car Series. Gary O'Brien and Lockie Mansell in the commentary box with you right through for the rest of the afternoon on the live stream on Glenline TV and on the AMRS Facebook page. The news so far in TA2, Gary, is that it's 2 race wins for Aaron Seaton.
Yeah, and seemingly no one can get near him. Well, the nearest that anyone could get to him has been Ash Jarvis in the Camaro. But there's been some great racing going on for P3, P4 and P5. And as we've seen, Russell Wright got the advantage early to pull away, but yesterday, of course, Hugh McAllister got past him early and took that spot away. But this time, Wright was further in front and managed to hold on. Now, I'm assuming that this race is working off accumulated points.
That'll be race 2 finishing positions.
Well, Russell Wright finished 3rd in race 2.
He actually got 4th because he got a 55, car 55, a 5-second time penalty.
Must have been a jump start. That's generally what they're for.
Which is a weird one because it was a single file rolling start, so not quite sure what the story is there. But anyway, the news as far as what we've been informed from timing is that there was a 5-second post-race time penalty applied to Russell Wright. That relegates him back behind Hugh McAllister. So Aaron Seaton and Ashley Jarvis on row 1, Hugh McAllister and Russell Wright on row number 2 of the grid. Then it's Cameron Sendall and Ian McAllister, back to Mark Crutcher and Chad Cotton, Peter Robinson and Greg Willis in 9th and 10th position, Michael Cooley and Scott Texter rounding out the 12-car field.
We imagine that Chad Cotton would continue his climb through the field. Unfortunately, wasn't a starter in first race when the car had battery issues on the dummy grid, and as we've seen this morning, picked up quite a few positions during the course of the race, and now we'll start a little bit further up the grid, and you would think would be a chance at maybe getting up towards 3rd or 4th position in this one.
He had big expectations coming into this weekend, Chad Cotton, on his home track. Canberra-based driver who has been running in the miniature race cars but elected to concentrate on the TA2 campaign. Was a lot happy with how his car was performing after a very encouraging test day here at Wakefield Park last week. But unfortunately, race 1 went pear-shaped before he even hit the track. A battery problem with that car causing it to grind to a halt in the marshalling area. The good news is that it's been resolved. However, he's still got some work to do. Chad Cotton starting out of 8th position on the grid. And this time, it looks like we are going to have our double file rolling start that makes TA2 cars such a spectacular sight to watch. as they get themselves formed up, ready for a race start. 10 laps the distance for the TA2 cars. TA2 Performax Muscle Car Series here at Wakefield Park. AMRS versus Ashley Jarvis off the front row. Green flag waves, race underway. Seaton a good start, and contacts between Hugh McAllister and Russell Wright. Both cars off the road, and we've got Greg Willis around as well. But 2 out of our 3 championship contenders in the gravel trap at turn 1.
Michael Klulig off as well, but he gets going. So 3 cars buried in the sand trap after turn 1 before turn 2, so we've immediately gone to safety car.
Wow, so remember, Russell Wright, championship leader. Hugh McAllister, second in the championship. They've taken each other out in turn number 1, and Ashley Jarvis, who sits in position number 2 when he comes around and sees both those cars parked in the gravel trap, he will be the happiest man at Wakefield Park.
I don't know if they don't like that sort of win that sort of way, but I'm sure he won't be disappointed.
Wow. So it looks like a situation there of just 2 into 1 at turn number 1. Do not go. It'd be interesting to see if our Plenline TV crew could give us a replay of that one, but such a shame because the driving standards in this category up to that point had been exemplary. There'd been some really hard but good, clean, fair racing. But yeah, unfortunately, a collision that has taken out 2 of the title contenders.
Hugh McAllister there taking his helmet off. You can tell it's Hugh, he's quite tall. Can't see where Russell Wright is at the moment, but certainly a fairly dramatic accident from our perspective. And unfortunately, Greg Willis, as almost an innocent bystander, got caught up in it as well. Michael Klulig, another that spun off the other way into the infield and managed to regather and continue. Actually, they're just going to, looks like they might, Russell Wright might be able to get going again. Might only just be superficial damage on that car. I'm not so sure about the McAllister machine. That looked like it hit the tyre barrier pretty hard.
And certainly Greg Willis seems to have escaped any sort of damage whatsoever, but unfortunately for him, he has dropped a lap to the rest of the field. Looks like there might be a bit of damage to the left rear corner. Here we go. Replay. Here we go. This will tell the story. Well, what do you make of that, Gary?
A bit hard to see from that angle. Obviously, it'd be great to see a front-on shot of that. That would certainly give us what we need to know. Wright looked like he was trying to go around the outside, and he was behind. We've got to remember that he and McAllister shared the second row, so he would have been on the outside. Maybe he tried to come across on the inside, cut across to get a line into turn 1, and as you mentioned, 2 into 1 just doesn't work.
Difficult to apportion blame one way or the other based on that replay and that particular camera angle. Ultimately, I think it was quite possibly just a very unfortunate racing incident between 2 drivers who were wanting to battle harder for position, but clearly the championship picture swings back the way of Ashley Jarvis after that one. Russell Wright's car has been towed back to the edge of the circuit.
Yeah, well,
let's see if he can get going again.
Most race accidents are by accident, hence their name. If we get a front end shot, that would probably give us more of an idea of how it all transpired. But I think the damage to the McAllister Motors Mustang looks rather more severe than to Wright's car. And I think they've towed Wright's car off at the outside of turn 2.
He's still down there. The recovery crews are still working with Russell Wright's car. It's just slightly obscured by one of the safety vehicles down there at the moment. And there we go. It's now being
moving under its own power.
Yeah, driven back onto the racetrack. So Let's see if it can actually continue on or if he has to bring it into the pits and retire from the race. Because even just by staying on the racetrack, there's still a bundle of points. Even if he gets classified in last position, there are still valuable championship points up for grabs, but it could be that, depending on the angle that it's gone into the gravel trap there, that if that's wounded the car too severely, that he actually has to bring it back into the pits if it's not safe for him to continue with it.
Certainly the biggest loser out of it will be McAllister, if Wright is able to continue. So hopefully here's a front-on shot of what happened here. Yeah, I think they just came together. I think Wright may have wanted that line into the corner, and as a result Willis got caught up in it as well. So you'd have to put that down to a racing incident. In cars would probably, there is a bit of damage on the front of the Wright machine, and by the look of the speed he's travelling at the moment, I would suspect that he will pit.
Yeah, I think you're right in regards to that. I just did some quick calculations, and if he can finish in 12th position, there's still 14 points up for grabs if they can get the car into a condition where it's safe enough for it to be able to continue. 14 points for finishing in 12th is a whole lot better than 0 points for not finishing. But it could just be, as I suspected, that the damage is
He has gone to the pits actually, so still the McAllister Mustang hasn't been moved as yet. And the damage with that wedged up against the tyre wall. He looked like he hit that tyre wall pretty hard too. Here's this Bathurst Technology shot we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, the new dome camera that's being used by the Blendline TV crew this weekend. Good shot of some of our very hard-working volunteer officials here at Wakefield Park. The recovery crews continued their recovery mission down there at turn number 1. Still under safety car conditions at the moment. It'll actually be a fair job to get that Hugh McAllister car retrieved, because they'll have to get it out from up against that tyre wall, tow it to a spot where a tilt tray can access it, you would imagine, and then remove it from the circuit.
We might take this opportunity to have a quick break, just keep the pictures going, and we'll come back when it's close to going green again.
Well, there's a little bit of a repair job underway, as you can imagine, for Russell Wright and his Ford Mustang. Looking a little worse for wear. Obviously, the guys are working at the front end there and underneath as well. But, Russell, I'm not sure if we're able to have a bit of a word with you, but talk us through that moment for us.
Well, it's all happened so quickly, but it seemed like Ashley Jarvis had a bit of a bad start. So Hugh and we were coming third and fourth. We're making ground, and then Hugh seemed to come across on me, and I couldn't avoid the back edge of him, which turned him around in front of me, and then seemed to put him into the outside wall. I got bogged in the gravel there. We just want to try and get out, and now they've got a race restart about to happen, so I want to try and get out there and get some points.
Fair enough. All right, Russell. Thanks, buddy. I'll get out of the way. There you have it. Update from the pits.
Thank you for that, kindly. So, some damage to Russell Wright's car. They are trying to get it back out, but will he complete enough laps to get classified as finisher? Not quite sure that he'll be able to. Hugh McAllister's
How's he going to get out?
Well, yeah, that's a good point as well, because the pit exit's blocked. And they've dragged Hugh McAllister's car back up pit exit as a way of getting it out of harm's way. We will have a restart this time around. There will be 3 laps remaining, and it is Aaron Seaton who leads ahead of Ashley Jarvis, and they are going to get Russell Wright's car going, but it's not going to be able to get out. The pit exit's blocked.
He might just squeeze past. One of those vehicles is going to have to close the door.
Back underway for a 3-lap dash to the checkered flag. Cameron Sendall getting up into 3rd position ahead of Ian McAllister.
And the one of the recovery car's doors is open, so he's just got to pass there. And Russell Wright will resume. So it'll be heart in your mouth stuff and disappointment, the fact that you're in the pits getting repairs done. You think, well, I'm going to make it back out there, and then drive down the lane and find the car that you tangled up with is blocking your access to the track.
That's another one for things you don't see at race meetings every day, File, that's for sure. So Cameron Sendall in the number 14 car, up, as I mentioned, into position number 3, getting ahead of Ian McAllister. In 4th position, Mark Crutcher next, followed by Chad Cotton. And then it's Peter Robinson in the number 10 car, the next one through.
Chad Cotton now making a move on Crutcher as they go down to turn 10, down the inside. I think he's got it done. Easy stands out that lime green Mustang. And Crutcher trying to come back at him down the straight. He won't be close enough to do anything about it. But it's been a good drive from Cameron Sendall. He's just been working his way up the field. Every time he goes out, he seems to be finishing further towards the front end. So we've got a Mustang in front, Camaro's in the 2nd spot.
And what's happened to Aaron Seaton here? Aaron Seaton in the number 88 car has slowed. Ashley Jarvis goes through to the lead. Aaron Seaton has fallen back to 4th position. He's lost spots to Jarvis, Sendall and McAllister.
I wonder if he's got an overheating issue or something and then had to slow down to try and keep the engine from going through, or overheating. But at the moment, Jarvis in front. It's Sendall in 2nd, McAllister 3rd, Seaton in 4th, Cotton in 5th.
And we're hearing that Aaron Seaton actually went off the road at turn 2. So a rare mistake for the driver who has been the dominant force in the most recent races in TA2. But Ashley Jarvis now on target with 1 lap remaining for a maximum haul of 25 points. And that'll be extremely valuable, especially considering that his main title rivals are both down and out.
It looks to me, by the line that they're all taking, that there is debris or dirt and that on the outside of turn 2, and they want to all avoid it. Now maybe that's what Seaton got caught up on the previous lap. Still trying to get a spot back behind Ian McAllister at the moment. So what a twist this race has put into TA2 muscle cars today. And McAllister trying to get past the Cameron Sendall car. Chad Cotton trying to get past Seaton, and Crutcher still right in there behind him. This is the final lap, of course, and there's our race leader, Ashley Jarvis. Negotiates the last corner and brings it down to the line. So possibly unexpectedly, Ashley Jarvis takes out the 3rd race for the 4MAX TA2 muscle cars this weekend.
Cameron Sendall through in second position. And it will be Ian McAllister in third position ahead of Aaron Seaton, who falls back to fourth. Chad Cotton next, followed then by Mark Crutcher. Back then to Peter Robinson and Scott Texter, Michael Coolwig, Greg Willis, and not sure if Russell Wright will be classified as a finisher, but he has got the car across the line. Whether or not he's done enough laps, I'm not quite sure.
It's normally 3/4 of lap distance, 10 laps the distance. He's only done 4, so that's only 40%.
So, yeah, questionable as to whether or not he will get classified as a finisher. But Ashley Jarvis gets the race win. And they'll have one more race later on this afternoon, the TA2 cars. Let's hope that they can get Hugh McAllister's car repaired and also Russell Wright's car patched up as well. And we'll see those cars back on the track this afternoon. Time for us to go to a break here in commentary. We've got the miniature race cars out for a reverse grid race on the other side of this break. Down to Kylie King, who's there and ready to have a chat to our race winner, Ashley Jarvis.
Wow, Ashley, what a nice little end to that race for your good self, coming home with the race win.
Yeah, look, I think we were pretty lucky there. There was a lot of stones sort of in turns 1 and 2 there, and Aaron just went a little bit too hot, and he handballed that one to us, but we'll take it.
Yeah, but what are these cars like to race? I know he didn't see as much in that one.
No, look, they're an absolutely fantastic car to drive. You really got to get up on the wheel, and but at the same time, you've got to be nice and smooth, which obviously Aaron is very, very good at.
Yeah, anytime he can get one up on is a good one, but I guess it's a tough way for him to lose it in that respect. But, yeah, I'm sure we're going to see more of you at the pointy end.
Yeah, look, he doesn't lose too many, so we're happy to take it. If I could just say good day to my wife, Rhea, and Hallie and Freya at home. Hope you're watching, and I'm having a good time.
Ah, good to see. Love the chat. Good luck next time.
Thanks, thank you.
Thanks, Kylie. Ashley Jarvis looks pumped up because he will take the championship lead after that race as well. So congratulations to Ashley Jarvis, who moves back to position number 1 in the TA2 points standings. As mentioned, miniature race cars are out next. And contrary to what I said before, this won't actually be a reverse grid race. So Craig McWhite set to start on pole position, our double race winner from yesterday. And it'll be a 10-lap race for the miniature race cars, which is coming your way on the live stream here on Glenline TV very shortly. getting ourselves set for race number 3 of the weekend for the miniature race cars here at Wakefield Park. Craig McWhite and Peter Griffiths on the front row, Brad Lemon, Gary Roberts on row 2, Kerry Hughes and Shane Smith on at row 3. Then we go back to Scott MacArthur, Stanley Foster, David Halls and Jeff Davey. Jeff Davey, a retirement with mechanical problems from race 2 yesterday in the number 111 bright yellow Team Supreme Future Racer. Racing underway for the miniatures. And a good start for Peter Griffiths in the Aussie racing car. He's going to try and go round the outside of Craig McWhite, but McWhite much better under brakes into turn 2.
Tied down in turn 2, 3 wide there, back behind our leading trio. Craig McWhite go on to the lead, and as he done in the 2 races yesterday, is already starting to clear out. Big winner in both those races yesterday.
There's the 2 Team Supreme machines, the bright green machine of Scott MacArthur and the yellow car of Jeff Davey. They will swap positions heading down the hill with Davey moving ahead. Normally we say Chad Cotton behind the wheel of the car that Scott MacArthur's driving this weekend. Chad Cotton's elected to concentrate on TA2, handed that car over to MacArthur. Davey has had an excellent start from the back of the grid. He's already made up 5 spots.
Yeah, at the moment coming behind our race leader, car 22 has made up a couple of spots after start. That's Roberts in the Aussie racing car machine, and leads Griffiths, who's dropped back from what could have been first position to third. Roberts, of course, in the Falcon AU bodied Aussie racing car, and Griffiths in the Ultima bodied race car.
You can see all of the drivers sticking to the right-hand side of the track down at turn 2, and that's because on the left-hand side of the track there's still a bit of dust and dirt from where those TA2 cars went off in the previous race. So different types of cars within this miniature race car category. You've got the future races, which are powered by the 1.3 litre Hayabusa motors. You've got the older model Aussie racing cars, and then you've also got a couple of legend cars that are running on different tyres and running slightly different mechanical specifications to the cars that you see running in the legend car series. As we've got a bit of a spin, that was David Halls trying to get down on the inside of Kerry Hughes and rotates the number 34 Commodore Aussie racing car.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of the early 80s old dealer team colour scheme. Even down to the signage is in the same typeface or font as what they did. Here's Griffiths making a move on Roberts down the inside at turn 2. And
Jeff Davey is railing in those Aussie racing cars as well.
So they're a 1.3 litre, is that right? The future boosters?
Racer, yeah, the Hayabusa.
So, and the Aussie racing cars, I assume they're running the older spec engines, the 1.2 litre Yamaha engines.
Correct. All of them run sequential gearboxes. I actually had a drive in a future racer here at Wakefield Park, one of the sister cars, in fact, to the Team Supreme machines a couple of years ago. They run a sequential gearbox, but you sit with your legs either side of the steering column, which means you have to left foot brake, and all of the future races have an auto blip, so when you change down, it automatically blips the throttles,
so
matches the engine revs.
Clutch.
Correct, and you don't have to hang the toe.
Davies just moved up another spot, well, for the moment anyway, because Griffiths come back at him.
Here's a replay. David Halls.
He actually was on the way to spinning before he got to the corner, let alone getting through it.
Dragged a fair bit of dust at the apex of the fish hook there as well.
And Griffiths gets that spot back, so Davey slots back into 4th position. Just in behind him, of course, is Lemon in the Commodore bodied car. And they had some good tussles yesterday in their 2 races, particularly Roberts, Lemon, and one of the others, I can't think who that was now, but might have been Griffiths, the other one involved in that little fight. And Davies drops another spot, so he's got dramas with that Hayabusa engine car.
Unfortunately, they just haven't had the reliability in that car this weekend. They've been battling a few niggling issues with it pretty much from when they rolled it onto the track for practice on Friday. Jeff Davies, pretty accomplished steerer in future races. He ran in the old Future Race series back as part of the previous incarnation of the AMRS back in the late 2000s, but also drove in the Wakefield 300 endurance
And
races.
has done some Aussie racing car drives as well, so he knows what the opposition's like. And here, the three of them are fully on, switched on now as they battle for second position outright in this race. Of course, the only one that hasn't had any problems with his car is that race leader in Craig McWhite, who is quite a distance away from him out in front. Hasn't really been troubled at all, has he?
No, and if he can keep these race wins ticking over, he will take the championship lead at the end of this weekend. He was second in the points behind Chad Cotton coming into the weekend, but because Chad Cotton's not running, it's opened the way for Craig McWhite to make up a lot of points. And if he keeps going the way he's well and truly on target for a maximum, as we see Peter Griffiths down the inside of Gary Roberts at turn 10 to move through into second position.
They did a lot of changes in position yesterday, and it seems as though they are today. And Davies has actually gone to the pits, so his race is done. Brad Levin there, the third of those cars, fourth on the road.
Really is a shame that Jeff Davies' car hasn't been running a bit more reliably, because he qualified very well yesterday. He actually qualified on pole, and if the car was running properly, he'd probably be every chance of taking the fight right up to Craig McWhite at the front of the field, but unfortunately the machinery just hasn't been cooperative with him this weekend.
One who is having a better run today has been Scott MacArthur in the 222 car. Spent a lot of time spinning, particularly in the wet race, his first race, but seemed to have got that under control in the second, but wasn't that fast. And now he seems to have got a handle on the car and is actually quite competitive at the moment, running in fifth position. They've just completed their 6th lap on their 7th of 10. It was a late start for them today. This is the first time we've seen them on track today in action. And one more race scheduled for them later in the day, second last race on the program. They put out a pretty good race between these three cars. Of course, the Altima's a lot later body shape, and I would suspect that the chassis is a later chassis as well than what these two cars in front of it are, or behind it, I should say.
Yeah, it will be one of the newer cars in the field, that's for sure.
Because it's not that difficult to change body shapes on an Aussie racing car. It is only a bit of panelling, or cars are all the same underneath, but we see Roberts under threat there from Lemon. Lemon not quite close enough on that occasion. Brings it out of the corner. Still in 4th position, still trying to chase down a result. And of course, the more pressure he puts on Roberts gives Griffiths that little bit of breathing space. And here he has another go down at turn 2. This time does it quite easily. I think Roberts got a bit spooked there when he went to turn in and found that there was a car there, and by the time you sort of brake and check yourself, you probably lose the best part of 2/10 or something as a result.
Especially if you weren't expecting the move to happen. I don't think Gary Roberts was quite expecting Lemon to be down the inside there.
What we've seen earlier too, Lemon's car seemed to come on later in the races as well, and I think we've seen that here again today. He certainly negated that break that Griffiths had over the pair of them just a lap ago. But now that Griffiths can put his head down and maybe try and pull the gap, or will Lemon make the difference?
Meanwhile, out in front, Craig McWhite continues to punch out the fastest race laps, and he's extended the lead to more than 10 seconds now over these battling Aussie racing cars. A bit like Formula Vee, which will be coming up next. You can get an advantage by slipstreaming in these Aussie racing cars as well. Maybe not so much here at Wakefield Park because the main straight's not as long as some of the straights at some of the other race tracks, but certainly there is still...
The Legend car's putting on a bit of a good scrap here as well that are in the field. That's Kerry Hughes and Stan Foster. Not much between them. Actually, this is Foster's best run. It's as close as he's been to his counterpart. And
just as you say that, he spins off to the infield.
Well, he was trying, we'll give him that. And up until this race, Kerry Hughes was actually battling with those Aussie racing cars, which we see here. Coming through this corner, again, Lemon looking for a way past. He'll get a run down the inside on this occasion and may grab second spot. He'll have the advantage going in the last corner, and they're running side by side, so he will have the right of way, and he sticks his nose in front. Griffiths maintains a roll on the outside. It will take the wide line in. It might give him a bit more out. It doesn't, though. And Lemon takes a position away from him. We're actually now on the last lap, and we forgive him for not showing much of the leader, but he is out there on his own, and all the action is happening behind him. But Craig McWhite is definitely 2 or 3 corners down the track away from these two, and his gap the last time across the line was 12.8 seconds. Another comfortable win for the number 347. There it is, coming through the last corner, the Axe Spray seating future racer, and just goes over to acknowledge he's taken the checkered flag for the 3rd time this weekend.
Race win number 3 then for Craig McWhite, and they will take the championship leader as a result of that one as well. Comprehensive race victory. We look back to see Brad Lemon coming home ahead of Peter Griffiths in 2nd position, and Gary Roberts through in 4th spot. Good to see Scott MacArthur in the sole remaining Team Supreme future racer, finishing up in 5th position. And then it'll be Shane Smith in for 6th spot.
Yeah, another interesting. Kerry Hughes will be the next one across the line, and the last position's yet to be decided because David Hall's just got past Stan Foster, and Foster's trying to make an attempt to get that spot back. So they go down to turn 10 for the last time, and through that corner it is David Hall ahead of Stan Foster as they come down the line, and there's about 2 car lengths between them.
So that was miniature race cars, race number 3 here at Wakefield Park. We now start to get into our final round of races for the weekend. Formula Vee, their final race coming up very shortly, right here at Wakefield Park for the AMRS.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podium presentation for round 3 of GT1 Australia. Assisting with the podium presentation is Paul Taylor. Okay, our winners outright from Audi, Matt Stupas. Second, from Mark Cars, Jake Camilleri.
This is round number 4 of the 2018 Australian Motor Racing Series as we get into our final group of races for the weekend. Time for race number 4 for the Formula V's, and it'll be Dylan Thomas, the winner of all 3 of the races that we've had so far, who will start on pole position ahead of Jeff Bennett, back then to Gary Cook, William Pym, Craig Hendrick, Wayne Hamilton in 6th, Paul Charlton in 7th, Bernie Cannon, the best placed of the 1200cc drivers, in 8th position. Greg Johnston in at 9th. Thomas Charlton, after his excursion off the road at turn number 2, he'll start 10th, and Michael McCosker, who didn't get out for the previous race, will start in 11th position.
Yeah, see Dylan Thomas doing some drifting down at turn 8 to get some warmth into those tyres. He's a bit renowned for that, get the whole car sliding, not just aggressively turning the steering wheel. Seems to work for him because he's undefeated this weekend at this stage.
Been a busy period for Dylan Thomas, as well as all of his Formula V exploits. He's also running 3 cars in the Toyota Radic 6 Series round at Taylor Bend next weekend. Tested there last week, had to fly back to Sydney to get himself down to Wakefield Park in time to be able to participate this weekend. We've got a car.
William Pym starting from pit lane.
Yeah, watch out for him to come through from the pit lane start, because he's been pretty fast in the first 3 races that we've had. He'll have his work cut out starting from pit lane for this one though. He'll have to fight hard to work his way back up through the field. So getting ourselves set for a race start. Final race of the weekend for Formula V underway, and a slow start. Dylan Thomas, he'll lose 2 positions at least off the line. Could be more than that. In fact, it'll be 4 positions that he'll lose. Yeah. So Jeff Bennett takes the lead.
Gary Hook would be in 2nd spot.
And Craig Hendrick moves up as well. Thomas already looking to get one of those spots back. Goes around the outside of Wayne Hamilton into turn 3. But Dylan Thomas might have to work a bit harder for his win in this Formula V race than what he did in the first three.
And Hendricks is immediately in front of him. But at the moment, it's Jeff Bennett leading with Gary Hook right behind him. And then we see Thomas go down the inside of Hendrick at turn 8, the fish hook. So he's back up the third position already. So after a miscue at the start, he's certainly got back into the groove of things and picked up 2 places on the opening lap. Be good education for some of these blokes that he passes to see how he goes about it.
And Tom Charlton was slow there at the back of the field as well, so Tom Charlton, who was beached in the gravel at turn 2 in the previous race, clearly with some mechanical dramas in this one. Good battle here. This is Michael McCosker on the back of Paul Charlton, Bernie Cannon in the 1200cc machine just behind those two. McCosker gets up the inside of Charlton, and there is the other Charlton car, Tom Charlton,
In pit lane, on the
coasting.
pit lane entry anyway,
Yep.
so he's off the track. Let's hope he can get it the rest of the way down. Fortunately, it's a downhill run from turn 10 down into the pits. And if a wheel hasn't fallen off it or something, he should be okay.
There's
As
Dylan
we-
Thomas moving up into second position ahead of Gary Hook. So it hasn't taken long for Thomas to work his way back up into second position.
Hook, of course, 3 different manufacturers out there as we see a bit of a lock-up from Dylan Thomas. The leaders in Jeff Bennett's is in a Jacer. It's a Stinger that Dylan Thomas is driving, and of course Hook in the Sabre. Quite a deal of manufacturer wars, you might say. Sabres are more prevalent in Victoria than here because they're made down here. Stinger's very much a New South Wales car, as is the Jacer. I think they were put together by Jason Cutts, if I remember correctly. But Formula V's had something of a resurgence. This, bearing in mind, is just a club round, but Formula V National Challenge has been quite well supported. Races at Lakeside, Tail and Bend, City Motorsport Park, and one more round of that series to go, which happens to be over at Barbagallo in September.
Yeah, big trek over to Western Australia coming up for a lot of the East Coast-based Formula V drivers, as we see Thomas looking to get the lead back, heading into turn 10, and again another brake lock-up. There are a few bumps there in the braking zone at turn number 10. And very easy to lock wheels over those bumps, but Thomas has made the move through into the lead.
And we've got 2 retirements. Pim back in the pits, as is Tom Charlton. So we're just down to the 9 cars. Ken Bruff, I should say, didn't make the start. So of our 13 potential Formula V's here this weekend, there's just 9 now running. Fortunately, this is their last race of the day. They were moved up from being the last on the program. So rather than bookending the day, they could get away a little bit earlier.
Bit of a shame for William Pim retiring from this race, because he'd had one of his strongest runs in Formula V up to this point, and he was running consistently in the top 4 or 5.
Yeah, you know you've got a problem when, well, that's the Charlton car there, but Pim's car's actually stuck on the fast lane a little bit further down the pit. And that tells me, well, he's got it going again, unless he's just turning it over on the starter, which is probably one way of doing it. It just flattens the battery very quickly. But in the meantime, Thomas has edged away slightly from Bennett. Then we've got this gap back to Hook and Hendrick fighting it out for 3rd position. Hamilton, the next one through, but...
Oh, and Dylan Thomas off at turn number 2. He did that in the last race as well, so he gives up the race lead. Jeff Bennett goes back through to the front. There's been a few uncharacteristic mistakes for Dylan Thomas in the last couple of races.
He won't want to be doing that next week when he's running one of the Toyotas.
No, you lost 1 position with that mistake. You make a mistake like that in the Toyota Rating 6 Series, you probably lose about a dozen positions.
Yeah, well, maybe even 30 positions. but he seems to have pace to burn, so you would expect that he would probably pick up this deficit fairly quickly.
So Jeff Bennett back to the race lead. There's Gary Hook, he's still holding down third position, just ahead of Craig Hendrick. It's a shame really that Winya Pim's not part of that battle, because that was a good three-way contest between Hook, Hendrick and Pim in the
all
previous
weekend
race.
up until this one.
Keith Gruff hasn't made it out for this race either. So after some of the problems that he had yesterday, we haven't seen him reappear today.
Five laps in the book. Another 5 to go, or less than that now. And the gap between first and second has already come down. We're looking at Craig Hendrick, former Victorian state champion of some years back, coming back into the sport. And he probably finds that the goal sticks have moved a little bit since he was last here, performance-wise, because we've had the innovation of, well, the introduction of the 1600 cc's, which has some more modern Volkswagen componentry, the likes of suspension and brakes, over the original 1200cc cars, which were basically unchanged from, apart from different manufacturers coming in doing the chassis. Very little in the way of rule change, if any, since the introduction of the category, and I think that was about 1962. And no, lucky I wasn't there.
Neither was I.
Here's Thomas now fighting back for the lead, but I don't think Bennett wants to give this one up easy. He's seen Thomas fire off the road twice and come back and, or once come back and pass him. He doesn't want to have to go through that and watch him do it all again.
Thomas looking pretty racy on the back of Jeff Bennett once again. We'll look down the inside into the fish hook. Bennett closes the door there. We were talking before, Gary, about some of the drivers who've come up from Formula Vee and made their presence felt in other categories over the years. Another name that I thought of is, as we see Thomas now looking to make the move down into turn number 10, which again, he has a bit of a brake lock up into that corner. And again, Bennett holds on the outside, so Bennett's making Thomas work for this one. But the other name that I thought of is Ryan Simpson.
Indeed, Ryan Simpson, who did a little bit of Formula Ford, should have won a Kumo Tyres V8 Touring Car National Series. Just got had some dramas down at Phillip Island with exhaust burning the track and being pulled off the track by the series owners, or the track owners. That cost him pretty dearly, but he was beaten at the last round, so I suppose it's just one of those things. And we've seen what he's done in production cars driving with Jim Policina, that he certainly is a gun driver.
Dylan Thomas now back through to the lead. He got the move done on Jeff Bennett heading up the hill out of turn number 2.
Because we can forget going back years, Bernie Henley and the like, and how good they were in these cars. Bernie Henley, of course, did some Bathurst races as well, but was well known on the Sunday afternoons live telecast of AMRS Park against Frank Kleinig. They had some monumental dices back in the day.
And Adam Proctor, there's another one who came out of Veets and went on to win some national titles, including the National Sports Racer Series.
Yep. After many years of trying. But we are on the 9 for 10 laps here, and you would think that if Dylan Thomas can keep it on track, he'd be okay. This gap between these two, between Hook and Hendricks, is closed right down. So will we see an attack on the third place car? That's number 11 car you're seeing there, just ahead of Hendrick, and Hendrick finds his feet returning to a category he once was pretty good in. Trying try and get past before this one's over. Certainly brought that gap down from what it was earlier. Dylan Thomas passes the start-finish line. He's setting off on his last lap. He's got a gap of around 1.4 seconds over Bennett. And then we've got this scrap going on for third spot between two predominantly orange cars. The Sabre, which we spoke about before, and of course Hendrick in a Jacer. Probably just figuring out where can you get past it. If you do it too early, you've got such a fine line between the performance levels of the two cars, and knowing the way V racing works, that you don't, if you necessarily get past early on the last lap, you may lose that spot before the end of the lap happens anyway.
Indeed, and particularly at tracks with the longer straights, it's almost often a case if you don't want to be leading heading into the last lap. But one driver who's led lots of laps this weekend and is going to complete the clean sweep in the Formula Vee New South Wales Club Round. Congratulations to Dylan Thomas as he weaves left and right across the start-finish line.
Sorry, Hendrick's just got the lead of third position off Hook, and Hook spun at the last corner, would you believe, but will still hold on to fourth spot. They were actually lapping Bernie Cannon, I think, at the time, so it was a bit of a a bit of a comical moment there that he looked like he was going to get the spot away anyway, but then Hook had to spin. But he won't lose position out of that. Dare say he does come across the line in fourth, Hamilton in fifth, McCosker in sixth, and Gannon, as we said, a lap down in seventh.
But Bernie Cannon will win the 1200cc class with a clean sweep of victories in that class, highlighted by the sixth position that he scored in the wet race yesterday in that less powerful 1200cc machine. So, confirmation of your results: Dylan Thomas, your winner; Jeff Bennett, back to Craig Hendrick, Gary Hook, Wayne Hamilton, and Michael McCosker, rounding out your top six positions. Legend Cars final race of the weekend not too far away, but before we get there, we're going to head to the GT1 Australia podium presentation.
Welcome to the podium presentation for round 3 of GT1 Australia. Assisting with the podium presentation is Paul Taylor. Okay, our winners outright from Audi, Matt Stupas. Second from Mark Cars, Jake Camilleri. And third from Audi, Rod Salmon. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your outright podium. Other presentations, folks. Mark Cars, the winner there, again, Jake Camilleri. In the Porsche Challenge, we've got Rick Mensa. Don't be camera shy, you've earned it. And the Ferrari Challenge, Jamie Aratoon. And for the Invitational, Gary Higgin and Jeff Taunton. Oh, camera shy. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. On behalf of GT1 Australia, let's see you at the next round.
Thanks, Kylie King, for that podium presentation. So Matt Stoop is getting his first round win for the GT1 Australia category. One category that has produced plenty of entertainment this weekend. Legend Cars Australia, they're on track now for their final race of the weekend. And it's James Burge on pole position ahead of Zane Morse, Ben Jagger and Brendan Hourigan on row number 2. Back then to Rick Christie and Stephen Chilby on the third row of the grid. Dalton Rowell and Josh Hourigan out of positions 7 and 8. Warwick Hessenberger and Jason Goulding rounding out your top 10. We go back to Anthony Browers, Mick Heptich, Paul Opre, Stuart Bond, David O'Hara, and then Graham Fraser, Brett Francis, Jim McCabe, Phil Biggerstaff, Brian Neal, Nick Taylor, Ken Davis and Andrew Browers rounding out our field. James Burge, fairly comprehensive race winner in the last race, but Zane Morse was the winner in the reverse grid race this morning. Let's see what the final race of the weekend brings.
Yeah, this is effectively round 8 for the Legend Cars, as you probably best explain it, Lockie, that of course yesterday's round with qualifying in 2 races was actually treated as a separate round.
Correct, so each day is treated as a round. So this is the 4th event, but because each event is split into 2 rounds, one on each day, this is effectively the 8th round. So James Burge was the round winner yesterday as well. He's won 6 out of the 7 complete rounds that we've had so far. Everybody gets to drop their worst round at the end of the year as well for the championship point score, which does include that fully funded trip over to the US to compete in the US Legend Car Nationals at the end of the season. Who's going to win that? We'll know the answer to that in November when the series wraps up at Winton Road Raceway. Right now, though, it's time to decide our round 8 winner. 8 laps the distance for the 5th and final race of the weekend, the 3rd race of the day for the Legend Cars Australia Series, presented by ACO here at Wakefield Park as we get underway for the race start, and it will be James Burge who takes control of the race once again. Ben Jagger trying to follow through but not able to do so, has to tuck into 3rd position behind Zane Morse.
Congested into turn 1, but looks like everyone's got through there unscathed, which is saying something for a fairly big field that we have here at the moment. Rick Christie there in the number 11 sedan, not a coupe as you see some of the others are.
And plenty of thrills and spills in the Legend Cars right throughout the weekend, and Zane Morse locks it up heading into the fish hook. Just pulls it up on the exit. He'll be vulnerable to Ben Jagger on the exit of the corner. Brian Neal in the number 4 car having a look down the inside of Warwick Hessenberger. Actually, no, that's Jim McCabe, sorry, that he was trying to pass there into the fish hook. Here come our leading bunch. Rick Christie making the move on the inside of Brendan Hourigan. Turn number 10, not quite able to do so there.
And already James Burge stretched the margin out in front. His lead is nearly a second, about 8/10 at the moment, with Ben Jagger trying to get past Zane Morse for second. Ben Hourigan the next one through, followed by Rick Christie. Then it should be Josh Hourigan the next one after that.
Josh Hourigan actually tried to get down the inside of Rick Christie into turn 2. There's been contact between Josh Hourigan and Stephen Chilby up the top of the hill between turns 3 and 4. They were running side by side into turn number 3. They've made contact. A bit of bodywork goes flying off the Stephen Chilby car. Chilby and Hourigan both parked on the left-hand side of the circuit. Chilby's been able to get going again. Josh Hourigan looking to get his car turned around and back onto the track as well, but both of those cars sporting damage.
Yeah, a little bit unfortunate. They were side by side and vying for position. Fortunately, both of them came to grief as a result, but fortunately, the racing continues. Speaking of Hourigan, sets Brandon Hourigan in position 4 at the moment, trying to chase down these 2 cars in front of him as James Burge continues to pull away, and that's him just disappearing out of the shot. And we've got the 2 cars in Morse and Jagger, the next 2, Hourigan in 4th, and they're starting to gap themselves away from the next car, which happens to be Rick Christie, I think we find.
It will be, and as a result of that incident up the top of the hill, the likes of Rick Christie, Dalton Rowell, Mick Hebditch and Jason Goulding have all moved up a few spots. The two cars that were involved in that incident up at turn number 3 of Stephen Shelby and Josh Hurigan both heading into the pits and into retirement. Their days are done.
They're going again to discuss how it all happened, are they?
I'd suggest you might be right. Be interesting to see what the officials think about that one as well.
Battle for second continues between Zane Morse and Ben Jagger. And Hurigan waiting in the wings to see if there's any chance of taking advantage of that.
I think the cars that are currently running in the top 4 or 5 positions are fairly representative of the overall pace in the Legend Cars Australia field this year. These are the cars that have generally been the fastest cars throughout the season, as we've seen Mick Hebditch being overtaken by Warwick Hessenberger at turn 2.
Yeah, I think he just got a little bit wide going into that corner and paid the price with Hessenberger getting through. O'Prey would be the next one behind them. And O'Prey was very strong in the first race, and 68 sliding its way. That's O'Prey, the one we're talking about.
He was good in the wet, wasn't he, yesterday?
Yes, very good in the wet. Came from about 13th or something on the grid to almost 6th or 7th from memory. Here's a challenge for second. Not quite close enough though. With Ben Jagger on Zane Morse. Cars, as you said, with a hard compound tyre, they do, in these cold conditions, tend to slide a bit. Now Jagger pulls out to go past. Is he close enough to get away with it? They go side by side through turn 1. And a big lock up from Jagger at 2. Can he keep it on track? He does, but as he compromised his exit speed with the Morse car coming up alongside, they're going to run side by side. We see what happened the last time two cars tried this. This time they do it successfully, and Morse gets his spot back.
Good racing room and respect shown there by Zane Morse and Ben Jagger. Jagger got the move done into turn 2, but Zane Morse was able to recapture the spot with a good run up the hill. Now Jagger back down the inside into the fishhook. They'll swap second position yet again, these two cars. Morse, though, will go back up into P2 at turn 9. Oh, as Jagger got a problem, he slowed down. I think he might have maybe had a missed shift, or it could be that there's a more severe problem with the number 9 car. I think there is, because Hurigan goes through as well.
So at this stage, you'd want to keep going if you could. He's pitting, he's got a puncture.
Something broken, it's more than just a puncture. It looks like there might be something broken in the rear end of that car that's causing it to wobble around.
I'd say sometimes you would endeavour to continue just to keep getting points, but it's obviously his fault.
Oh, and Mick Hebditch has pulled up on the side of the circuit as well.
Fortunately, he's out of the way. He's off the side of pit exit before turn 1, so that should mean he's okay there. He's to get hit at that point would be a very difficult thing to do, even if you wanted to.
So a bit of attrition creeping into this final race of the weekend.
Yeah, well, this is their 5th race, so you'd expect that it's been a busy weekend for these fellas. And more cars starting to fall by the wayside.
And that's Ken Davis, who was very slow coming around turn number 2. He's running in a spare car, one of the cars that's actually owned by the Legend Cars Australia organisation after his primary car expired with mechanical problems yesterday.
Yeah, he had pole position for the first race today. Didn't have it for long though, as fast cars came charging through, particularly the likes of Christie, who had dramas yesterday, so got elevated up in the reverse grid start.
Brett Francis on screen at the moment, involved in a battle with Jim McCabe. Jim McCabe in the number 47 car, who's just behind Brett Francis in the number 66 entry. And off the circuit goes, is that Jason Goulding, I think, running off the road.
Now it looks like Ben Jagger is going to rejoin the circuit, so he pulled in. Maybe it's a check to see if he had damage, but he's heading back out.
Important to try and get classified as a finisher and get as many points as he can. Here comes James Burge across the start-finish line to commence his final lap. Ben Jagger is back out on the track, but he's running in 20th position. And just been shown a weather radar, and there is a front of rain heading towards us. So it could be that we end up with a wet finish to the day here for the AMRS at Wakefield Park.
Yeah, unlike yesterday was coming from the west, today it's coming from the south, and looking to our south, it's very dark. So there's a chance that we could get something before this weekend is out. Like to make travelling home a bit arduous.
Unless you live in Goulburn, of course. We are on the final lap. There's James Burge going through to put another lap on his teammate Ben Jagger, who's just out there whipping that car around to try and get classified as a finisher and score points. And James Burge, he's been very much the class of the field in the ACO Legend Cars Australia Series in 2018. Lost out to Zane Morse in the reverse grid race this morning, but he's bounced back in the other two races today. He will take his 7th round win from 8 rounds in the 2018 Legend Cars Australia Series. James Burge, congratulations. Another fine victory.
Zane Morse will get across the line in second. And Ben Horrigan should be third. Rick Cressy in 4th position. Rowell in 5th. Jason Goldwyn in 6th. Hassenberger in 7th. Anthony Browers in 8th. Although some of these cars are still coming around to finish the event. Been an entertaining 5 races from these guys this weekend.
Yeah, big thumbs up to the Legend Cars Australia organisation. John Dennehy, Sam Booker, the rest of the crew who run the Legend Cars Australia Series. Has been a valuable addition to the AMRS program this season. They've produced entertaining racing everywhere they've gone, and the number of cars at each round has continued to increase. 24 cars they've had in the field this weekend, and with their increasing promotions, the facts that the cars can run in both speedway and circuit racing, and the opportunity to win a fully funded trip over to the US, I'm sure that this series is going to become more and more popular, and certainly great to have it as part of the AMRS program. The Legend Car Nationals are being held at Marulan Driver Training Centre, or Pheasant Wood as it's now known, which is just up the road from here in Goulburn on the first weekend of September as well. So looking forward to seeing how that pans out. A lot of these drivers will be in action at that event. All right, so Legend Cars race number 5 of the weekend, race number 3 of the day, done and dusted. Looks like we're going to be having some more podium presentations recorded. We'll grab a break up here in commentary. We've got the Stockcars Aussie Racing Utes Group 6 Touring Cars and Outlaw V8s coming out onto the track very shortly. time for the final race of the weekend for the Stockcars, Super 6 touring cars and Aussie racing Utes here as round 4 of the AMRS continues at Wakefield Park. We've got Michael Coulter and Steve Coulter on the front row, Shane Harris and David Hender on row number 2 of the grid. Wayne Williams, the first of the Aussie racing Utes, ahead of Richard Mork. Brent Edwards, the best of the Super 6 touring cars. 10 laps the journey for the weekend's final race for this category.
Yeah, Brent Edwards has been one to watch because he's been quicker than the Utes. And now they're underway, but overall the fastest all weekend has been Michael Coulter, and he takes the lead down to turn 1. Will Shane Harris get inside Steve Coulter for second? He doesn't. And Brent Edwards is the one that lost out big time off the start. Both the Holden Utes have got ahead of him.
Good start from Richard Mork, actually, because he got ahead of both Brent Edwards and Wayne Williams off the start. So got a great launch away from the inside of the circuit and was able to get up the inside of both Williams and Edwards in turn 2.
Yeah, Edwards fighting to get spots back. He's got to get past Williams to start with. Of course, the next one in there is the third of the Holden Utes, which is Henderson. Now we see Edwards lining up Williams as they go down towards turn 10. Not close enough, and Williams in turn is trying to get past Richard Mork. Their front running 4 are disappearing down the road in front of them, and that's Coulter M, Coulter S. Then it's Shane Harris and David Hender in the 2 Chev-powered stock cars.
Brian Walden as well making the move down on the inside of Clint Henderson at turn 2. Brian Walden's had a bit of a rough weekend with some mechanical problems in the earlier races. Not driving the car that we normally see him in. Normally see him in the number 24 stock car. He's in a different car this weekend, the number 63 entry.
Pretty close at the moment between this battle for third as well as the battle behind them for 5th, 6th and 7th. And Mork has a slow run out of the fishhook, allows Williams to get right into the tailgate of that leading Holden. Now can he move down the inside and get that position away? It'll be pretty even under brakes, I would have thought, and Mork covers himself. But when you take the narrow line in there, you just compromise your exit speed just slightly, as we see Brian Walden come down the inside and get that position away. So he'll interrupt that battle for maybe a half a lap. Should get past these 2 Holdens in pretty short order.
Always interesting having these mixed categories in amongst each other. Often you're not actually racing against cars that are within your particular category, but you still want to try and get past them, of course.
Well, and to beat the cars that you wouldn't expect to beat, that's always a feather in your cap as well, isn't it?
Oh, Brian Walden down the inside of Wayne Williams through turn 6. The right-hander, and I'll go side by side down through there. Williams will be on the inside of the fishhook. Walden around the outside. Nice move.
And what it does, it's let Richard Mork get slipped right away from Williams at this point. That gap is quite a bit now, as you can see, the yellow Holden Ute. We'll get down to turn 10 well in ahead of Williams, who's now in danger of losing another position because Edwards is battling with him through turn 10. Another one that they'll have to be wary of coming up behind them will be Trevor Crisp in the Dodge Charger. There he is on screen there ahead of Brendan O'Connor. Of course, looked like he was going to finish well in advance of him in the earlier race, but speared off out of turn 9 and had to fight back to get some of those places back towards the end of the race, from basically the rear of the field. So he will move up a little bit closer to these 2 cars in front of him. course, are the Hendricks Holden Ute immediately in front of him, and of course O'Connor in the AU Falcon Super 6 behind him.
And we've had a change in third position as well. So David Hender has gone past Shane Harris. David Hender up to third position.
Probably the only thing you don't recognise with the rear of these stock cars as opposed to their NASCAR cousins is that these cars have got brake lights. As you can see on the back of the Pontiac Grand Prix there. And it's just part of circuit racing that they have to have brake lights and a rain light, I would imagine, as well, for whenever they have wet weather.
Generally, when they do have wet weather for the stock cars, if it's too bad, they actually won't send them out because it's simply too dangerous. Over in the US, of course, the cars were never designed to run in wet weather conditions. And certainly in NASCAR, they actually stop the races altogether if it's wet.
They do there. I'm sure that one year Bob Jones brought some wet tyres in for the cars to run. Oh, Richard Bourke off the road out of 9, loses a spot to Edwards, gets it back under control, but what it does is brings Wayne Williams a little bit closer to him as well. Oh, looks like we've got an engine drama here for Hender. He's pulled out. That might be a bit of an engine blow up, I would imagine.
Wow, there's a lot of smoke, isn't it, out of that car? So that'll be Hender's day done. And
yeah, there's fire underneath there.
And possibly a safety car situation as well.
Some of these cars do have onboard extinguishers, so we should be, you would think we'd be under a safety car by this stage.
Look at the officials, they were on the scene within seconds of that happening.
It might not be wise to open that bonnet quite yet. There is still smoke coming out of it. There was flames underneath it, under that wheel arch. Yeah, there's always got to be careful when you pull the bonnet. If there is a fire there, it's usually getting starved of oxygen, and once you lift the bonnet, it gets an oxygen surge. And we've got another one off Zach O'Hara off the inside of the track. So I assumed that he would have spun on the oil. Now gets going. We're under double yellows at that point of the track.
Still no safety car at this stage, just double waved yellow flags up the top of the hill at turn number 4.
And with the oil down there, I would have thought we would have had one by now. I obviously think it's not in a dangerous position, as he voluntarily drove it off the track at that point.
He's staying behind the wheel of the car, and it looks like the recovery crews are just going to hook up one of their recovery vehicles and try and tow him to a safe position.
In the meantime, Trevor Crisp has got past Richard Mork. Brett Edwards up into 5th spot. He's in front of this dice by a fair margin.
Yeah, big thumbs up to the officials there, because they've done a really good job of getting David Hender's car out of the way quickly and avoided having to have a safety car unnecessarily.
Battle going on between the two Holden Utes to see who wins the Aussie Ute class here. At the moment, Mork has had 2 victories, Williams 1, so this will probably decide how that goes, who wins this one. I would expect that if Williams does get ahead of him, then it will be Wayne Williams' round, because he would finish last race. And Trevor Crisp off the road at turn 2, goes skating through the gravel trap, comes out the other side. The unfortunate part about that is he loses quite a few positions as a result.
If Wayne Williams wins this race, Richard Mork will still win the round, because Wayne Williams was 3rd in race 1 yesterday.
Okay. But Mork seems to have the advantage. He's got Henderson on the back of Williams now, so that's taken some of the pressure off him. Brendan O'Connor is in this battle too, and we've seen earlier that the Super Sixes can well and truly mix it with the Utes, and they've put on some pretty good racing, and it's one of the lapped stock cars getting out of the way, O'Hara.
So I'm just thinking about round winners for this class, with positions as they are at the moment. Michael Coulter would win the round for the stock cars. Brent Edwards would win the round for the Super Sixes. And Richard Mork would win the round for the Aussie Racing Utes.
There's our top 8 at the moment. So Richard Mork's actually in 6th position, but ahead of him, the 2 Coulthers, Harris, Walden, and Brett Edwards, the leader in the Super Sixes. So it's been a good trip for Brett Edwards to come up from Victoria to race this round. One of the pioneers in the move that was made to the later body cars in Super Sixes, or saloon cars as is more readily known in some quarters. And certainly got the advantage. We're on the final lap now. Michael Coulter leads the way ahead of Steve Coulter in 2nd position. 3rd position is Shane Harris. Ryan Walden in 4th position. So we've still got stock cars in the top 4. Ryan Walden coming through from well down in the field as his battle continues to see who becomes the top Ute, because Brett Edwards is well and truly advanced to this. And here they come down. Final corner for our prolific race winner this weekend in Michael Coulter. And he will go on to record 4 from 4 in the combined categories.
Yeah, very well done to Michael Coulter. Another clean sweep for him. Picks up the race victory 2.9 seconds ahead of his dad, Steve Coulter. Shane Harris picking up the 3rd position. Brian Walden, best performance for him for the weekend as well. He'll end up 4th. Brent Edwards will take out the Super 6 touring car race. And the battle for the Aussie Racing Utes is going to come right down to the last corner of the last lap for the race win, because both Wayne Williams and Clint Hedison have closed in on Richard Mork. Williams with a good run out of turn 9. Mork's going to have to defend on the run into turn number 10 on this final lap. But I think he'll just hold on. Look at Wayne Williams trying to get the power down. Almost loses it on the exit of turn number 10.
And will lose the spot, will he, to Hedison? I think Hedison will get a run on him and just pips him on the line. Bit over exuberant out of the last corner. Tried to nip back on the inside of Mork, to be fair. And unfortunately it didn't quite come to plan. So he will finish the race in 8th position. Henderson 7th. O'Connor in 9th position. Dennis Cribben in the 4th of the Utes. The Falcon is in 10th. Then we've got Trevor Crisp recovering for 11th.
So that is the stock cars, Aussie Racing Utes and Super 6 touring cars done for the weekend. Let's head back down to Kylie King, who has the podium presentation for Formula Vee.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podium presentation for Formula Vee at Wakefield Park. I have Chris Lewis-Williams, who is the CEO of the Benalla Auto Club, who are the promoters of the AMRS here this weekend to make the trophy presentations. So if I could call on our 3rd place getter, Gary Hook. A 2nd for the weekend, Jeff Bennett. And our winner for the weekend, our 3 times, if you don't mind, New South Wales champion, Dylan Thomas, a clean sweep of the round. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your AMRS round podium.
Congratulations to our Formula V top 3 for the weekend. Up next on the program will be the final race of the weekend for the TA2 Performax Muscle Car Series, as round number 4 of the AMRS continues here at the nation's spectator track, Wakefield Park Raceway. Welcome back, everybody. Great to have your company right around the world on Blendline TV for round number 4 of the 2018 Australian Motor Racing Series. Gary O'Brien and Lachlan Mansell in the commentary box as we get ourselves set for the final race of the weekend for the Performax TA2 Muscle Car Series. Ashley Jarvis, who moved into the series lead with his race win in the previous race on pole. The other two title contenders coming from the back after clashing in the previous race. That's Hugh McAllister and Russell Wright, with cars in various states of repair as we get ourselves set for a rolling start. TA2 cars ready to thunder away. Hopefully this time they can get through the first two corners nice and cleanly. Watch out for Aaron Seaton moving up as well. He slipped off the road in the previous race, but he's been very fast all weekend. It's Jarvis who takes the early lead ahead of Ian McAllister, Aaron Seaton up there in third position, ahead of Chad Cotton, and then Mark Crutcher in fifth.
Yeah, we're a bit confused about why Cameron Siddall is way back. They said he finished a lap down, but from what we could determine, he was second in the last race. But in the meantime, Jarvis has actually pulled a little bit away from Ian McAllister in second, Seaton in third, Chad Cotton up to fourth, and Mark Crutcher fifth. Rode the curbs down to turn 2 on the opening lap, but already we can see Siddall has picked up a couple of spots.
Indeed, he's got around Scott Texter, who is also under a bit of pressure there from Greg Willis and Pete Robinson. Hugh McAllister's car missing the front splitter, so it won't have any front downhill force. That'll make it quite difficult to drive, you would think, but for him it's really just about being out there circulating, getting classified as a finisher and accumulating as many points as he can to minimise the damage that Ashley Jarvis is able to inflict upon him.
Aaron Seaton trying to put some pressure on Ian McAllister, who probably would feel the pressure himself a little bit, knowing that he's got Seaton behind him and trying to keep him there. Meanwhile, Jarvis is making every post a winner, getting away as far as he can. And Mac is doing really well in second spot. Cotton, the next one behind Seaton, in fourth. He's got Crutcher and Peter Robinson, who has been slowly working his way through the field. I don't mean this disrespectfully, but he's been sort of under the radar a little bit, moving up the order. And he's in that purple Dodge Challenger. Just see go through a frame there just a moment ago on the Blendline TV coverage.
Aaron Seaton still looking for a way to get around Ian McAllister. Hasn't been able to do so yet. Ian McAllister driving a very wide Ford Mustang and keeping the number 88 car behind at the moment. As he makes a bit of a mistake at the top of the hill, Ian McAllister.
The pressure was too much, and Ian McAllister surrenders second spot, and immediately Aaron Seaton starts to pull away.
So that was just a case there for Aaron Seaton of being patient, wasn't it? Keeping Ian McAllister under pressure, waiting for a mistake to come, and it did come, and Aaron Seaton was perfectly positioned to be able to capitalise.
Now Chad Cotton can probably chase the same sort of formula. Just keep the pressure on Ian McAllister and therefore hope that he does come unstuck. But by the same token, he's got to be a little bit wary because he's got Crutcher and Robinson right behind him. And if he decides that he can't wait any longer, or he waits too long, then those two cars will probably get through. I think we're just getting a few spots of rain now starting to fall around the circuit. We're on the edge of what looks like a fairly heavy rain band moving across to the east. So it will probably remain fairly dry, I would imagine, apart from the odd spot of rain just on the fringe of this system.
Touch wood, I think the worst of it will miss us when I had a look at the radar images earlier on, but still could make it a bit slippery and treacherous for these TA2 cars to have to negotiate on their slick Hoosier controlled tyres. As we see Ian McAllister, having been overtaken by Aaron Seaton, is now coming under pressure from Chad Cotton, who would dearly love a top 3 finish to complete what's been a pretty challenging weekend.
Yes,
and Peter Robinson up the inside of Mark Crutcher makes the move through at turn 10.
So it's the best performance from the Dodge Challengers this weekend. Big Crutcher comes back at him down the straight, and has he got enough overlap to get it done? No, he doesn't. So Robertson holds on to that position in the number 10 Challenger.
Oh, and a spin for Mark Crutcher on the exit of turn 2 as well, having just lost that spot. Rotates on the exit and loses a few positions.
Yeah, that will drop him back.
Oh, and with all of the garbage that he's picked up on his tyres, he's going to find that car very skaty to drive, and he almost spun again as he came back on.
McAllister under pressure from Cotton, and Robertson right in behind him. So they go down through turn 8. We're on the 5th lap, about to complete the 5th lap. Will be our race leader Ash Jarvis, whose advantage over Aaron Seaton has diminished quite significantly. So Jarvis goes through to complete half distance. The gap is
Fastest lap
just
of the race.
1.2 seconds.
Yep, and Aaron Seaton fastest lap of the race with a 61.8 second lap that time through.
Here this battle continues between McAllister, Cotton and Robertson. McAllister would be kicking himself for that little error earlier on. And it was at this part of the track where it happened. This time he's a bit more circumspect getting through there and holds position. Robertson now comes down under brakes, but on the wrong side of the road to be able to effect a pass. Sandel the next one through. Russell Wright in his Band-Aid Mustang, followed by Kulig. Here Robertson has another shot down at turn 10. Again, not quite close enough, but certainly up for the challenge.
In the Challenger. Ashley Jarvis now under attack from Aaron Seaton, 0.4 of a second, the margin between our two race leaders.
Now this will be a similar situation to what Seaton had with McAllister. You just sit there and we can see a few spots of moisture on the camera up the top of the track, the eastern side of the circuit, where the fringe of this system is moving through. So not expecting much in the way of precipitation out of it. It just might frighten them a little bit for a couple of laps. Jarvis will be not wanting to make any mistakes if he wins this race, although Seaton is now having a shot at him down at 10. He's not close enough to get away with it there. Should Jarvis win this race, he would win the round.
Indeed. Of course, it would be 2 race wins apiece, and Aaron Seaton's had a 3rd place finish in one of the races. So this is the battle for the round win. We've got 3 laps remaining. So Ashley Jarvis, the current points leader, under pressure from the young gun, Aaron Seaton.
Oh, there's a bit of a touch between Robertson and Cotton down at turn 2. I think Cotton braked a little bit earlier than where Robertson was planning to do it. And there was nose to tail contact. Not much, and if anything it affected Robertson more so than Cotton, as he now slips past McAllister up at turn 5. So that position has changed. Cotton now clear of McAllister and into a solid P3. Seaton now has another look at Jarvis up at turn 10. Not quite close enough, and Jarvis hangs on once more.
So Seaton being patient just as he was when he was trying to find his way past McAllister. But the difference now is that there's only 2 laps left, so Seaton can't be patient for too long or he'll run out of time to make the move through. And as we discussed, there is the round win up for grabs here. If Ashley Jarvis can hold on in front, he will win the round. If Aaron Seaton can get past, he will win the round.
Yeah, Seaton looks a lot stronger in the braking areas than what Jarvis is. He's pulling him in fairly rapidly under brakes. That's just experience, I guess, and his knowledge of the cars that he drives. And looks like he might have been a bit taily there, Jarvis, down into the fishhook, but gathers it all up, keeps it together through 9 again. Now, will this be his opportunity? Jarvis will will try and cover himself as Seaton goes for the inside move. And again, not quite close enough to get away with it. He's got one more lap to hold on to the race lead. He'll be doing everything possible. I'd be driving right on the line as much as possible. Don't give him the opportunity to slip down the inside. But Seaton has, as I said, been very strong under the brakes in most of the heavy braking areas.
So either the fishhook or turn 10, they're probably the two overtaking opportunities for Aaron Seaton on this final lap. He just needs to keep it nice and tidy over the top of the circuit, focus on getting a good run down the hill, try and get himself close enough so that he can launch an attack into the fishhook. Failing that, focus on turn 9, getting a good run out of the right-hand kink onto the back straight and set yourself up for a move into turn 10. And realistically, that will be Aaron Seaton's last opportunity. Ashley Jarvis a bit slow in the mid-corner. Aaron Seaton faster.
He's moving over to the left-hand side, right-hand side of the road, stopping him from doing it. The over-under is the only opportunity now out of the final corner. I don't think he's close enough to get it done. He isn't. And Ash Jarvis will win the final race for the weekend for the Performance Max TA2 muscle cars, and by our reckoning has won the round.
Wow, 0.2 of a second, the final margin between the two. Peter Robinson down on the inside of Ian McAllister at turn 10 as well. Chad Cotton will get home for third position, and McAllister will just hold out Robinson in that contest for fourth and fifth position. Then we go back to Cameron Sendall in sixth. Russell Wright, seventh position. Back then to Michael Coolick, Greg Willis, and Mark Crutcher after that spin, falling back into 10th position. Hugh McAllister bringing his wounded car home in position 11. But Ashley Jarvis,
pressure
what he
race
needed to do in a
pressure
racer,
race,
yep, to win the round. Well done.
I think he's come out of this weekend a bit better than what he would have hoped for. A second would have been worthwhile, and it increases his points lead as well.
Well, he came into the weekend third in the championship by virtue of the results that he's achieved this weekend and the dramas for his title rivals. He will leave the weekend as the series leader for the Performax TA2 Muscle Car Series.
Chad Cotton rewarded with a third in this one. McAllister in fourth, Robinson fifth, Sendall in sixth. And at this stage, while they go back to the pits, we'll take a quick break before the final race in the weekend for the Mazda RX8 Cup.
And during the break, we'll head back down to Kylie King. She's with our Legend card top three place getters.
Bring it up. Okay. Time now for our Sunday podium for Legends Cars Australia. Please welcome Sarah Ackley to help with the trophy presentation, and our race winners for today. Third, Brendan Hurrigan. Second, Zane Morse. And our winner, James Burge, extending his lead in the championship. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause for our Sunday race podium for Legends Cars Australia.
Mazda RX8 Cup. They've put on some sensational racing for us this weekend at Wakefield Park, and they're out on the circuit now getting ready for their final race of the weekend. In the earlier race this morning, it was Will Harris who executed a cheeky switchback manoeuvre on Rickshaw to take the win on the very last corner of the last lap. He'll start from pole position, Rickshaw alongside him on the front row of the grid. Aaron Prosser and Matt Butters on row 2, back to Stephen McLean and Lachlan O'Hara on the third row of the grid. Will Couchy out of position 7, Terry Lewis in 8th position on the grid. And then it's Nick Dunkley in 9th, Braden Slater in 10th position, Sam Silvestro 11th, back then to Alex Cook, Simon Slade, Danny Cashin, Maisie Place, and Michael Dwyer rounding out our grid. Unfortunately, a couple of non-starters for this race. Paul Drant Mitchell, after a few mechanical problems yesterday, not making it to the grid.
This one will determine the round win, of course. At the moment, Will Harris has 2 wins to Rickshaw's 1. And so whoever wins this race will probably take the round, I would imagine.
Rickshaw leading the series. Will Harris driving the Speedy Wheels sponsored car. Speedy Wheels, one of the series sponsors for the Mazda RX8 Cup, along with Hunter Kitchen King, who also support this series. And we go to dome cam view of the starting grid. And what we saw yesterday was that Will Harris took a victory in the wet race, but subsequently lost the start to Rickshaw in the second race, which was held in dry weather conditions. So Will Harris will be looking for a better start this time around. Aaron Prosser, the New Zealander, out of position 3. And Matt Butters, who's had a really good debut weekend in the Mazda RX8 Cup, starting 4th.
Apart from race 1. Got punted off at turn 2 on the opening lap and went down the lap, so he's fought back well. Red light on, red light off, and Shaw won the start quite easily, really. Terry Lewis has made a good start. Will Gauchi hasn't got off the right line at all well. Nick Dunkley's made a reasonably good start too in the number 12 blue car.
Nick Dunkley looking to the outside of Will Couchy. Lachlan O'Hara getting up the inside though of Nick Dunkley as they head up the hill, but beautiful start for Rickshaw, similar to what we saw yesterday. Stephen McLean trying to go round the outside of Matt Butters at turn 3, and Terry Lewis right up on the curb at turn 4 as he probed for a move on the inside of Stephen McLean. They're still side by side getting themselves sorted out as they head down the hill out of turn 5 and through the sweeping right-hander at turn number 6.
So it's Rickshaw who leads the way. Prosser in second, so Harris has dropped another spot. He has Butters and McLean right behind him. Then it's Terry Lewis, followed by the number 6, that's Lachlan O'Hara.
And we've had a spin for Simon Slade. The Canberra driver has come off the circuit heading down the hill. A few drivers having to take evasive action to avoid colliding with that car. And here's another move, that's Will Couchy. So he actually lost some spots on the exit of turn number 9. Falls back in behind Sam Silvestro and just ahead of Braden Slater. And in fact, Slater will line up Will Couchy for a move coming out of turn number 10. So Will Couchy losing a number of spots this lap.
Was a player at the front end of the field yesterday, but doesn't seem to be able to replicate that form today. And Shaw at the moment leads by just under a second over Prosser. So that if he wins this race, that would give him the round, because Harris is, they would have finished on equal points if Harris was second, but at the moment he's under pressure to hold on to third, with Butters right on his tail, and not far back are McLean, Lewis and O'Hara. They've gapped Nick Dunkley, who could have finished second in the wet yesterday, just got pipped on the last lap by Shaw, and was really good in the wet, not so in the dry. Big things coming for RX8 now. Lewis seems to have a drama. He's just surrendered a spot to O'Hara fairly easily, unless he just had a bad run out of that last corner. Terry Lewis, a former Australian production car champion. is back into sport after 27 years. I think we said he was out of it.
This is a good four-way battle on screen at the moment. Nick Dunkley just ahead of Sam Silvestro. Good to see a number of businesses getting involved in leasing out cars for this series. So there's a lot of people who want to go motor racing who don't necessarily have the resources or the infrastructure to own and prepare their own car. But you've got people like Phil Alexander with Raceway Track Time and also Sam Silvestro through his S-Sport racing business who are giving people the opportunity to rock up and basically do the whole arrive and drive package where you just turn up at the circuit with your race suit and helmet and away you go. Braden Slater behind the wheel of Phil Alexander's Raceway Track Time RX8 this weekend.
He was looking to go past Gauci there, but Gauci in turn was trying to get past Silvestro, so Slater had to pull out of that one, and as a result remains where he is, but Gauci does get ahead of him. Dunkley just up the road from them. As we said, I think Prosser's actually cut that leading gap in half. It was just over a second, now it's just over half a second. The New Zealander finding his feet in this category, getting quicker and quicker.
The thing is, a lot of the circuits that he comes to, it's the first time that he's visited them, so he hasn't had as much experience here at Wakefield Park as a lot of the other drivers, but every lap that he turns, he gets better and better. He was very quick by the end of the weekend up at Morgan Park. He led for most of the final race of the weekend up there before a bit of an error in the wet conditions forced him back to second place behind Rick Shaw, but right now he's looking pacey. Aaron Prosser is putting the pressure on Rick Shaw. We'll have a look at the lap times. A minute 10.4 for sure. Prosser actually slightly slower, a minute 10.5, and it's only 0.6 per second between the two of them. And Matt Butters to the outside of Will Harris at turn number 2.
Lost out big time trying to go around that outside, had to cut back in, and by that stage Harris had the line and actually gapped him somewhat as a result. But down the straight, it looked for a moment there, Butters might have pulled that move off, trying to go around the outside. It's an audacious one to do. If you can get away with it, it's quite a good move, but not on this occasion. Actually compromised himself because McLean is not far behind him, would have edged a little bit closer.
Matt Butters did set the fastest lap of the race last time through at 1 minute 10.2, so he is showing a pretty decent turn of speed at the moment.
Shaw continues to lead, but the gap, as we said, is coming down as Prosser gets closer and closer. So if Prosser does get ahead of Shaw, then it will be very difficult to determine who actually wins the round out of Shaw and Harris, won't it? Because of the way the results will fall. It may go back to Harris under those circumstances. Dominated the series from the opening round at Winton Motor Raceway, but the opposition has got closer, and he's readily admitted that this is only the third round of their series. He's readily admitted that the opposition is getting closer, and as we've seen this weekend, he's been beaten on 2 occasions. But at the moment, if he wins this race, he will win the round and maintain his points lead, increase it slightly.
Just seeing in the back of the shot there, a car going off. That was Lachlan O'Hara, who went wide at the fishhook and gave up a few spots, or at least one spot to Terry Lewis. Shaw responding to the challenge from Aaron Prosser that time through. Minute 10.4 for Shaw compared to a minute 10.7 for Prosser. One of the things I think that will give Rick Shaw a bit of an edge is his experience in long distance races. He is very adept at punching out lap after lap with metronomic consistency without making any mistakes, and lap times that are all very close to one another.
Yeah, very experienced racer, has done a lot of racing in a lot of categories. Raced at the Nürburgring 24-hour race when it was mixed category event. Spa as well. VLN races. Sports sedans in Australia, improved production in Australia. Supercars here in Australia as a teammate to Wayne Russell at Bathurst in the long distance races, and of course now in the class he's created.
And he is a winner of the Wakefield 300 here in 2011, driving alongside Steve Anslow in a V8 powered Mazda RX7 as well. Braden Smate, a good run out of turn 9, and he'll come down on the inside of Sam Silvestro into turn 10.
Is that a wise move, passing your boss?
Phil Alexander's actually Braden Smate as
Oh, I
boss.
beg your pardon. Oh, that's okay then. You can get away with that one.
So that moves Braden Slater up into the top 10.
So it's a good thing that we've got multi-car teams coming.
Oh, and we've got a car off the road.
69.
That's Michael Dwyer. And that's way up the top of the hill over on
Outside of turn 6.
Yeah, drivers left it between turns 5 and 6. So not sure if he's had contacts there with another car, because that's a weird spot to come off.
Well, it's the last place you'd look, isn't it? Or the last place we looked.
When that incident happened, Gary and I were looking at turn 2, turn 10, all of the spots where cars normally come off.
Yeah, where else are their tyres? Starting the second last lap, and Rickshaw continues to lead this as he comes in to put a lap on Macy Place. And Prosser goes through as well. So this is where Prosser has to start trying to edge closer as much as he can. Still under a second the distance between the pair of them. Harris appears now to have well and truly cleared himself of the challenge from Butters. McLean in 5th spot still. And then it's Lewis and O'Hara, the next two, Gauchi and Dunkley. So Gauchi's actually moved forward and got past Nick Dunkley as well. And then it's Slater, the next one, followed by Silvestro. They're our top runners. And as you can see, starting the last lap just about now, Rickshaw, Aaron Prosser. And you can see they're still on the limits of braking down into turn 2 there, or through turn 1 into turn 2. Cars seem to squirm a lot under heavy braking.
And realistically, I don't think that Prosser's going to get quite close enough to Rickshaw to challenge, given that we are on the final lap of the race, although Rickshaw takes a lot of curb at turn 5. Really threw it across the ripple strip at that right-hander.
And Rickshaw now negotiates turn 9 for the last time. Just one more corner to go. Oh, and throws the car off the road out of 9. Gives Prosser some sort of hope, but I don't think he's close enough to be able to take advantage of it. And through the last corner, out it comes. 2 wins from 4 starts this weekend. Rickshaw, by our calculations, will win the round. Ahead in this particular race of Aaron Prosser, with Will Harris in 3rd spot, who we think will be 2nd overall. And I'm not sure who's going to finish 3rd. Maybe it's McLean who will be 3rd overall, because Prosser ran off the road in race 1 in the wet conditions and recorded a DNF as a result. But that's it for the Mazda MX-8 Cup.
RX8 Cup.
RX8, yeah. 2 more rounds to go. Sydney Motorsport Park and Wheaton Motor Raceway to finish off their 5-round series.
And that is Rickshaw's 3rd round victory from 3 rounds that we've had so far for the RX8 Cup. So continuing his perfect record in terms of round victories. Time for a break up here in Coventry. more action to come in a couple of moments' time. So getting ourselves set for the final race of the weekend here at round 4 of the Australian Motor Racing Series. It's race number 4 of the weekend for the miniature race cars. Craig McWhite looking to complete a clean sweep of race wins. He's taken the championship lead. He'll start on pole. Brad Lemon alongside him on the front row of the grid. Then we go back to the second row of the grid where we find Gary Roberts and Peter Griffiths in their Aussie racing cars. Shane Smith is out there as well. And good to see the future racer of Scott MacArthur. Triple 2 entry. Unfortunately, Jeff Davies not made the start of this race. But Craig McWhite, he's been the dominant performer in this series so far this weekend. Looks like we're missing a couple of the legend cars that were in the previous races as well.
Yeah, Brad Lemon's been getting a little bit closer to the pointy end of the field, and at the moment he runs in second position. We can see, looked like Jeff Davey had a bit of a lock-up there behind Peter Griffiths on the opening lap, and we'll try and sneak down the inside of the Ultima Aussie racing car driver at turn 5. In the meantime, there's our race leader in Craig McWhite, leading the way ahead of Brad Lemon in the Aussie racing car. Gary Roberts in third, Jeff Davies fourth, Peter Griffiths the next one through. And as we said, we're missing a few of the cars from the early race. Shane Smith back there, and of course there's our Commodore bodied Aussie racing car
David
coming
Halls,
through there, David Halls. Actually, I think the last time we called these cars racing here, David Hall was right up near the front. He hasn't been car had a different colour scheme on it back then.
Peter Griffiths in the Nissan Altima lost a few spots on the opening lap. He's fallen back in behind Scott MacArthur, who's actually made a pretty decent start in the number 222 Team Supreme entry. Chad Cotton, the regular driver of that car, standing down on the fence, gives us a wave up in the commentary box. He's paying close attention to what's happening in this race, the final race of the weekend here at round number 4 of the Australian Motor Racing Series. As we roll through this final race, Gary, what's been your highlight of the weekend for this AMRS round?
Well, yesterday I would have said the RX8 Cup car, races and the Legend cars. Certainly the way the 2 GT1 Australia races have transpired has been quite a good event as well. First time I've actually seen Code 60 in operation. I think it worked well in the second race. I'm not so sure it worked well in the first race because everyone pitted under it and no one lost a lap, and it certainly advantaged those who had the longer pit stops.
Also, any particular thoughts on who's been your driver of the weekend?
Well, pretty hard to go past Craig McWhite in this race. He's been untouched out in front and dominated. Hasn't even looked like getting beaten. Dylan Thomas in the Formula Vees. He doesn't get the gong because he threw it off the road a couple of times, probably to make it more interesting in the upper reason. And Davies trying to get past the Aussie racing car 22. That's the Gary Roberts car.
That's actually Scott MacArthur.
Oh, beg your pardon.
Yep.
Scott MacArthur attempting, and he's improved as the race meeting's gone on. From yesterday he had some dramas, and now he does move up into third position. Wonder if he can finally get a future racer 1-2 by the end of this day, and is it possible he can catch Brad Lemon and make a race of it? And Craig McWhite's car's got a bit of a transponder issue at the moment.
Indeed it does, so they're having to score that car manually at the moment. Just having a look at our timing screen here, and it does actually have Jeff Davies scored as behind the wheel of the number 222 Future Racer, so it could be that Jeff Davies has been slotted into that car for this race. Chad Cotton, if you can hear us down there on the fence, is it Jeff Davies? Yes, it is. Yeah, there you go. So it is Jeff Davies in car 222.
You mean I was
so
right.
You're right. So it had been Scott MacArthur in that car in the earlier races, but it is Jeff Davies in the car for this one.
He's locking up a brake there. You can tell by the performance that the thing is lighten it up wherever he can. and already he's gapped Roberts, so the next one up the road will be the Lemon car, and as you can see that there it is, number 179.
Not sure about describing it as the Lemon car. That makes it sound like it should be competing in one of the other events that we have here at Wakefield Park, the 24 Hours of Lemons.
Yeah, it's significant. It carries the 179 number 2, a very much an iconic Holden size engine from the past, back in the started in the EH Holdens back in late 1963, and I wasn't there. So so that Holden-bodied Aussie racing car would carry that number as, I don't know if they did it intentionally or not, but we'll say he did. And Davey is running him down at this stage, getting closer and closer with this, the 5th lap. Will be just 3 after this one. And McWhite hasn't got as far away in front as he has in the previous couple of races, although he has set the fastest lap in this race. Still a battle going on further back in the field. Now, we must have assumed that Peter Griffiths had an incident somewhere to fall back, because he was battling up with these guys earlier.
Indeed he was, and he showed pretty good pace in his Nissan Altima right throughout the weekend, but at the moment he's back in behind Gary Roberts. They're battling over positions 4 and 5. That number 222 Team Supreme Future Race, and that'll have some pretty happy memories for Jeff Davey, because that's the car that he and Chad Cotton shared when they won the Winton 300 together back in 2012. As we see Peter Griffiths looking down on the inside of Gary Roberts at turn number 2, not quite able to make the move there.
Yeah, very close, and Roberts did see him coming and made sure that he had the line covered before Griffiths got there. In 6th position at the moment is Shane Smith, and David Hall rounds out our 7 competitors in this, the final race of the day. And Griffiths now going for another move down at turn 8, the fish hook, not quite close enough to get that one done. And also painted the Orion in the Nissan racing colours, or even Datsun racing colours perhaps, because they would date back to when the Datsun factory were racing cars. Traditionally the blue and white with those 2 stripes down the side of it. Craig McWhite's gap over the leader, over Davey in 2nd, who has got past Lemon, is 3.7 seconds, so we're gearing up for a form finish here with the future races. And again, Davey has a bit of a brake lock up in the green 222 machine on their 2nd last lap. And the gap between 1st and 2nd was 3.7 seconds last time around, and Davey can't afford to button off or else Lemon will get him back. Still, this great dice goes on for 3rd, and almost came undone there for Roberts. Slipped a little bit wide on the exit of turn 8, and Griffiths hounds him out through 9. Now may get a run on him as they head down towards 10. Always a great passing move, but he's on the wrong side of the road unless he can switch over and get the late entry early exit out of 10. Doesn't do it though. So Roberts has to hold on for one more lap, and already he might have conceded that spot. And it appears though he has, with Griffiths getting through. Now Roberts, can he come back and make a fight of it over this last lap?
So this is the contest for 4th and 5th position. Meanwhile, we are now on the final lap. Craig McWhite looking to complete the clean sweep, cement his position atop the championship standings. And good to see Jeff Davey, after all the dramas that he had had this weekend, finally putting together a decent run with the change in car, allowing him to have a more competitive and reliable run in the weekend's final race.
A memory that Davey retired from the earlier race, remember?
He did
That's
indeed.
probably why he changed cars.
So here he comes, Craig McWhite, going to complete the clean sweep. 4 wins from 4 races, extends his championship lead in the miniature race cars. Jeff Davey finishing up in second position and setting the fastest lap of the race on the final lap just for good measure. Third place goes the way of Brad Lemon in the best of the Aussie racing cars, and Peter Griffiths will finish up in fourth position ahead of Gary Roberts. We can go back to Shane Smith in sixth position, and it'll be David Halls, the final finisher, in position number 7, and that completes the racing action as far as round number 4 of the AMRS goes for 2018. It's been a weekend of mixed weather conditions, but it's also been a weekend of sensational racing on the track, and it's been a weekend where we've generated some valuable funding and awareness for a very worthy cause in the Rural Aid Buy Bail program. Gary, it's been a pleasure to call all of the action alongside you, of course.
As it always is, Lockie. We'll be here working with you as well. We look forward to Sydney Motorsport Park and the final round at Whitten Motor Raceway in November, when the weather will be a little bit more on our side.
So still to come on Blendline TV this afternoon. Don't go away, because we just still have some more coverage inclusions, including podium presentations from our remaining categories and a full encore broadcast of race 2 of the GT1 races, and then a weekend wrap with Kylie King and myself as well. So stay tuned to Blendline TV. But from commentary from Gary O'Brien and Lachlan Mansell, it's bye for now, and see you at Sydney Motorsport Park in October.
Time now for some more podium presentations. First up, I'd like to welcome the round winners for the Group 4 and Super Sixes. Third was Michael Rice, who couldn't make the podium here this afternoon. Second, Brendan O'Connor, to be presented by Sarah Ackley from AMRS. And our round winner, Brent Edwards. Congratulations, folks. Here is our round podium for these guys, the Group 4 Super Sixes. Thanks, gentlemen. Next, we have the presentation for stock cars. So, third for the round this weekend was Shane Harris. Second, Steve Coulter. And our winner for the round is Michael Coulter. Extra cuddles for Sarah. She's loving this job. Ladies and gentlemen, here is your podium for stock cars. Congratulations, chaps. Look, he's won and he's already given me lip. I haven't even called his name yet. But it's time for the V8 Ute Racing presentation. Our podium today, I'm not going to mention his name yet because he's being very cheeky. But third for the round is Clint Henderson. Second is Wayne Williams. And the crowd goes wild. And just to break the rule, hopping in front of the cameras, breaking all the rules as he does, our podium round winner, Richard Moore. Ladies and gentlemen, there's your podium for the AMRS Wakefield Park round.
Well done, guys. I'd just like to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, another time for another podium. A great weekend for these guys. It's round 5 of the Performax TA2 Muscle Car Series. They certainly put on a show for us. Helping with the presentation today, Wayne Williams from the AMRS. First off, we'd like to announce a Masters Award. This is for the highest placed driver over 50, but he's a speedy guy anyway. Please welcome Ian McAllister. And Ian McAllister, while you are here, he has also taken third for the round. So up on the podium. Well done, Ian. So that's for third outright. Well done. Second outright is Aaron Seaton in the Castrol Harris Ford Mustang. So a little bit unlucky in the end, but on the podium nonetheless. Congratulations. And first outright, Ashley Jarvis in the Lighthouse Electrical Camaro. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your podium for round 5 of the Performax TA2 Muscle Car Series Australia.
Race after it was his brother Paul McLaughlin who participated in the earlier race, and we're getting ourselves set for a double file rolling start, but there's a lot of cars that are not properly formed up yet, and I think we might have a delayed start situation because some of the tail end runners have not got themselves up in double file formation, so we don't get a green light this time around. They'll send them round and they'll make them try again.
It's amazing that how many times do these guys do starts like this and can't get it right.
I mean, look at these gaps here. I don't want to be too critical of some of these drivers, but what's all that about? There were some that were not even halfway around the track yet, and the race leaders were already starting to form up, and we've
Steve
got
McLaughlin in the pit, so dramas for that car. Yeah, and the door opens, not a good sign. And there's a gear change issue or something with it.
That might be one for us to send our pit reporter, Kindly King, down to chase up.
Scarpering down to find out straight away.
And the other news is that the clock has started on this race as well. Time, the scheduled 50 minutes for this race, has started at this point. We'll get them formed up again, and we'll try again for version 2.0 for the rolling start. Other point that I wanted to make is that the handicap pit stop times for the cars that didn't finish the race, Jeff Taunton and John Goodacre, will still be 15 seconds and 20 seconds respectively, because if you DNF, it goes back to what your handicap pit stop time would have been for race number 1, as this time the field looks like it's in much tidier formation, and we are just about ready to go racing. Race number 2, the GT1 Australia category here at Wakefield Park. Green flag waves, the race is underway. Rio Nagara takes the early lead. Rod Salmon slots into second position. Stupas and Camilleri side by side in the contest
Camilleri's
third.
been bumped back out of turn 2. And Morgan's got a problem, has he? He's sort of pulled out of challenging for third position before they got to the top of the hill. Camilleri in behind him in fifth.
And here comes John Goodacre charging through the field. He was an early retirement from race number 1 after contact with Jamie Aratoon on the opening lap. And he's starting to make his way through the field in one of the Mark Focuses. He's already overtaken a number of cars, and he might grab another spot shortly as well.
Yeah, he passes one of the other Mark cars, the number 92 machine. So he moves up into a very competitive position in the opening race, or the opening lap, I should say. But it's Audis 1, 2 and 3 as they come around to complete the first lap.
Rio Nagara leading ahead of Rod Salmon, Matt Stupas in third spot. And as you correctly identified, all those drivers in Audis. Porsche fourth in the hands of Jeff Morgan. Mark Carr fifth in the hands of Jake Camilleri. Porsche sixth. That's Rick Menza in one of the 997 Mark I Porsches, who has been running all of the rounds. Oh, as Jeff Morgan makes a mistake at turn 3, runs off the road in the number 41 car. Just came a bit too hot and understeered off the road and loses a couple of spots with that error.
Yeah, surrenders those positions. At least clears the way for Jake Camilleri to latch onto the back of the Audis, and he looks like he's doing that. Rick Mensa now in fifth spot, Morgan sixth, and John Goodacre closing in on him as well.
And a leg change down the inside. Rod Salmon makes the move through on Rio Nagara at turn 10. Rod Salmon hits the front.
Minus turn, the first 4. Now Camilleri will want to get past those two Audis. He'll know what happens as we see Stupas try to make a move on Nagara down at turn 2. But I would suspect that Jake Camilleri would want to get past
Oh
it.
no, Rod Salmon off at turn 3. Gets it all crossed up sideways, skates across the infield, and will drop positions as a result of that. Falls back to at least fourth spot.
There's damage on the right rear of that car as well. So yeah, that's certainly thrown a spanner in the works. With Nagara back in front, Stupas second, now Camilleri up to third. And let's see if Salmon can continue. Looks like he's still got pace, but I think it might be wise to check that all is okay with that car before he continues on. No, he's going through, so he obviously feels there's nothing wrong with the car as he's been hounded by Mensa and Morgan and Goodacre in that group as well.
So that puts Nagara back to the front ahead of Stupas and Camilleri. Once again, it'll be a compulsory pit stop, which will take place between the 20-minute and 30-minute mark of this 50-minute race. And there will be a mandatory stationary time for each car during that pit stop cycle. Out of these top 3 runners, Rio Nagara has an 80-second compulsory pit stop. Matt Stupas a 65-second pit stop. Jake Camilleri a 75-second pit stop.
Not much between them at all. And Rod Salmon would have had 75 seconds as well, or he still does, but he's now thrown away any sort of advantage that he was trying to eke out while in the lead. It's probably important to be, if you are in front, to move away and build up as much of a gap as you can so you don't suffer too much when the pit stops come around.
Jeff Morgan's fallen back behind Rick Mensa after that earlier off that we saw at turn number 3, and he's under a bit of pressure from John Goodacre at the moment. Jeff Taunton, who was a non-finisher in the earlier race, has actually done the fastest lap of the race at 1 minute 1.6. So he starts to claw his way up the order. He's driving what we've been describing all weekend as the Mark Generation 1.5 car. It's running the 5.2 litre Coyote V8 engine out of the Mark Generation 2 cars.
He's got a 15-second stop, so that's less than what he had in the first race. But he's just not going to have a driver error like he did in the first one, where he slipped up by hitting a curb a bit too hard and breaking a suspension component.
Jeff Morgan looking down on the inside of Rick Menzer at turn 10. Quite able to make the move through there.
And they've also been joined by Jason Busk in the second of the marked cars, or third of the marked cars. And Goodacre again has a look at Morgan down at turn 2. But Jeff Morgan covers himself well there. He's not going to let him through. See him going across the top of the hill. Morgan in the Porsche, who didn't qualify, so started off from the back of the field.
Down in the pits is the car of Steve McLaughlin, and down in the pits with some news on that car is Kylie King.
Yes, folks, at this stage she ain't going too far. Electrical gremlins, the boys are telling me, but I have got the other McLaughlin, Paul, who raced in race 1. You popped your brother in the car. What have you done? You've broken it on him.
Well, I hope not. I don't know actually what's going on, so they haven't said anything to me at this stage. So
Yeah, it's not what you want to see, but just reflecting very quickly on that race, you've been out of the seat for 20 odd years. What was it like for you?
look, it was very different. Look, I wasn't very comfortable sitting in the seat. I was moving around a lot, but you know, that's just a learning experience how to drive one of these cars. And had a couple of offs. One I got pushed off, and one by myself. So yeah, look, I just need some seat time to realise how these cars work.
And what's, I guess, the hardest thing to come to grips with jumping into one of these cars?
Oh, look, from
Where do you start?
look, I really don't know. It's just understanding how it drives. I wasn't too bad in the wet, but in the dry, you know, I got some time to make up. So just seat time and see how I go.
Thanks for the chat and best of luck. I hope your brother can get out there. He missed out on race 1, jumped in for race 2, and no cigar at this stage, but fingers crossed for him.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you, Kylie. And just while that's been going on, Jason Busk has moved ahead of John Goodacre. Now both of them have got past Jeff Morgan. I think it was a bit of a bump and run to get past for Johnny Goodacre on that occasion. Jeff Morgan not making it easy for those two marked cars to get through.
Yeah, the race has not really gone according to plan for Jeff Morgan so far, because he started well and got himself up a position at the start, but then made that mistake at turn 3, and he hasn't really recovered since then. And now those fast marked cars fighting their way through Jeff Taunton and also John Goodacre, and off the road goes Jeff Taunton. That's up the top of the hill at turn number 5. That's where he broke the suspension on that car earlier on by hitting the curbs a bit too hard.
Yeah, he said they're great curves and they're all right if you can slide up on them. It's where you come down on the other side and it hurts. And in the meantime, Jake Camilleri again tries to get Matt Stupas at turn 10. Doesn't quite manage it. Very close as we see that Rio Nagara's, for a moment there, pulled a bit of a gap.
Reports of a few showers or sprinkles of rain around the circuit at the moment, and just having a look out of our commentary box window, there are a few sprinkles of rain. It's nothing particularly heavy, certainly nowhere near as some of the quite heavy rain that we had here yesterday, but still it could create a few anxious moments for all of these drivers who are out there on slick tyres.
Yeah, forecast was just flashed up there on the current weather conditions, the forecast, and it hasn't been the warmest day I've ever experienced here, I must say. It probably ranks as one of the coldest. 8 degrees currently. Forecast is partly cloudy and the probability of rain has increased from 30% to 50%. And I think we've just seen a little bit of it now.
So 9 minutes until the pit window opens. Keep in mind that if they had to come in and go onto wet weather tyres, they can't count that as their compulsory pit stop, because within GC1 racing, the rules of the compulsory pit stops are that you're not actually allowed to work on the car. So if it did get heavy enough to necessitate a change to wets, they'd have to do a separate pit stop for that. And it'd really come down to a battle of pit crews, and you'd have to back probably a team like Audi Sport Customer Racing that has experience of doing pit stops and tyre changes in racing conditions to get the stop executed nice and quickly. So Rio Nagara's done a good job here. He's maintained the track position that he held by starting the race out of position number 1. He's not been overtaken by either Matt Stupas or Jake Camilleri. problem, of course, is that he will have a longer pit stop during the compulsory pit stops. The pit window opens in just over 8 minutes' time. Thinking about what our projected race order might be, Gary, once the pit stops cycle begins. And out of these top 3 runners, it's Matt Stupas who's got the shortest pit stop, 65 seconds for him.
Yeah, it's a 15-second advantage over the race leader. So that could work in his favour. Camilleri is 75 seconds. That's 5 seconds less than Nagara. Just looking back at some of the others, who would we rate as a chance there? Jeff Morgan now has a 40-second pit stop. So it's a bit difficult to suggest that anyone outside that top bunch could threaten them like they did in the first race.
Possibly the other one that I'd been looking at would be Jason Busk, currently in 9th position in one of the Mark Focuses, who only has to do a stop-go in his pit bay during the compulsory pit stop.
Yeah, correct.
And also Jeff Taunton in that number 95 car only has to stop for 15 seconds, so he has a fairly short stop
Providing
as
he
well.
keeps it on the road, of course.
Here's a battle on between a couple of the Ferraris, Jamie Aratoon and Scott Hookey, resuming their contest that they had in race number 1 earlier on. And Scott Hookey's got a decent run here out of turn 10. He'll get down on the inside of Jamie Aratoon into turn number 1. Has to back out of that one though. Tucks back in behind the Aratoon number 20 car.
And the next one in line behind them will be Scott Hookey.
Gary
John
Higgin.
Nikolowski.
Yes, so we've got the 3 Ferraris running in positions 10, 11 and 12 at the moment. So John Nikolowski's just gotten ahead of Gary Higgin, in fact, on the previous lap.
Still the front 3 running in tandem. And I suspect that Rod Salmon is starting to pick him up. He looks like he's doing some pretty quick times at the moment. He had a PB on the last lap, and he's just done the fastest lap of the race. So confidence is back after a bit of an off there early on while leading the race.
And Rod Salmon's compulsory pit stop time is 75 seconds, the same as it is for Jake Camilleri.
So it's going to be, he'll have to make up that gap between them on the road. He won't get any advantage in the mandatory pit stops.
That rain that we were talking about a couple of minutes ago seems to have disappeared. The circuit's now bathed in sunlight once again.
If the wind's strong enough to blow the rain in from several kilometres away, there's something we'll have to watch out for as the afternoon progresses. There was talk late yesterday that we could have possibly got a thunderstorm this afternoon. Doesn't appear that we have one as yet.
So there's plenty of high-profile names down in the GT1 paddock this weekend. One of them is Ryle Harris, and he's down in the pits with Kylie King.
A Super Utes contender in the mix. What are you doing? The people you run into in pit lane, huh?
Yeah, no, just helping out Scott Hookey and the boys in the 458 challenges. So they're all good mates and they're having a good time out there. So so far so good.
Yeah. So what's I guess some of the advice or help that you're giving Scott?
In these conditions, it's pretty tricky. So obviously their mates, they want to beat each other, and they're right on one another right now. So Scott actually owns both cars, so I just said to him, I said, you can run into your own car or stay off it. It's up to you.
Spoken like a true contender. What do you think of this whole GT1 category that you're seeing it for the first time? I take it.
It's good. It's a good mix. It's they're all gentlemen races, so it's good fun. It's nice and relaxed, and there is some very odd rulings. The 60 speed limit thing on the safety car is a bit of a weird one, but it seems to work well, and everyone's having a good time, so that's all that matters, I guess.
And I guess you've got pit stops to think about soon. Is he coming in shortly?
Yeah, the boys, Jamie's got 20 seconds, Scott's got 15, so I've just told him to stay within 5 of him. It should be right.
Good advice. Thanks for the chat. Good on you. Thanks for the chat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kylie, and thanks to Ryle. Of course, he might be able to show the winner how to do that shoey he invented.
Indeed, because that's where it all started, wasn't it? And it's all expanded from there and ended up becoming an international phenomenon. But tell you what, Kylie King and I probably feel like almost we're back at a Super Utes round, because Normally it's me commentating and Kylie doing all of the paddock interviews for the Super Utes category, which is the one that Ryle Harris races in. But Rod Salmon once again fastest lap of the race as he continues to close in on the top three. Only 6.5 seconds separating the top 4 drivers in this race, with 2 minutes and 50 seconds until the pit window opens. John Goodacre's done a good job of working his way through from the back of the grid. He's up to 6th position, and he's putting the pressure on Rick Menza in the Porsche 911.
He's had to work for those positions, but he's done a good job, and probably feels a bit justified. He should have been up amongst these guys in the first race, except in case you weren't aware, had some contact with one of the Ferraris out of turn 2 on the opening lap of the first race and took no further part. Now, as we're watching Freddie with way, Jeff Morgan hasn't dropped off the backstreet by any stretch of the imagination. Still not a lot between him, and Morgan really good under brakes. One of the strong points of the Porsches, just how good those cars pull up. Whatever generation of Porsche you might own, or whatever model, and really comes in tight on the back of Goodacre down at turn 10. Meanwhile, we go back to another dice that's happening further back.
So this is Jason Busk and Jamie Aratoon. So Jamie Aratoon has pulled away from Scott Hookey after having that challenge from Hookey earlier on, and he's now attacking Jason Busk for what would be 9th position down the inside at turn 10. The car and the Ferrari will drag down the main straight, and side by side across the finish line, Aratoon gets ahead of turn 1.
Yeah, it's a little bit more from the Ferrari in a straight line. Not a great deal, but enough to get him through to take that position away. Goodacre right on the back of Mensa now as they go through turn 9, head down to turn 10 for last time. The Mark car has a little bit more of a straight line, goes down the inside and should get this position away. It's taken him a while to do it, but he's finally got through. Will Jeff Morgan take advantage of this and try and get through, but they're side by side down the straight. I think that Mensa might get this back. He stays a little bit wide, and then Goodacre takes a run down the inside and finally makes that move complete.
And Jeff Morgan will take advantage of this as well. Gets the better run up the hill out of turn 2, so Mensa got a bit checked up there. He tried to hold station on the outside of Goodacre, but sometimes in a situation like that, you just have to concede that you're going to lose one position rather than fighting to the death and losing more than one spot.
Well, I think he probably could have cheekily thought I could have moved over to hold line into turn 1, but then there might have been contact between the two cars, and no doubt he probably would have come off second best if that happened. So he stayed a little bit wide, gave Goodacre the room, and certainly Goodacre took full advantage of him. And as you can see now that Goodacre's obviously got a bit more pace and is actually pushed away from these two cars. As now they've got to deal with another Mark 1 car coming up behind them. That's the 95 car of Jeff Taunton, of course.
So compulsory pit stop window now open as Rod Salmon punches out the fastest lap of the race once again at a 60.1, just to ever so slightly close the gap to these top 3 runners. This time we don't have a code 60, so...
First car is making its run into the pits. That's Nikolovsky Ferrari.
So this time we might see the pit stops taken by drivers on different laps rather than the previous race where they all came in together.
Well, they were more or less forced to, weren't they, because of the code 60. And one of the Audis coming in as well. And it's a car in second position, Matt Stukas. So he's getting, what he's trying to do there is get himself out of being delayed by the race leader, realising he can't get past him on the track, but he may get past him through the pit stops.
It's the undercut strategy, isn't it? Get yourself into the pits, get some cleared track.
Well, he's got a 15-second advantage being in the pits, so he can pass him there and not lose time out on the circuit.
So he might have been feeling that he was being held up by Rio Nagara, so he came into the pits just to try and get himself out of that battle, get some clear track. Rod Salmon's come in as well. It'll be interesting to see here what Rio Nagara and Jake Camilleri do. whether Rio Nagara comes in to try and cover them off. Obviously, Rio Nagara does have a longer pit stop than those two. We know that Jake Camilleri is going to be pretty quick when he's got clear track as well. So Nagara continues on for another lap, as does Camilleri.
I suspect that Jake Camilleri will come in when Nagara does, because there's less than 5 seconds between them, and that's what their pit call is. He's only actually 1.4 seconds behind, so by pitting at the same time, he will pass him without having to do it on the track.
That's a good point, Gary. So that makes a lot of sense. So Matt Stokes is on his way out of the pits, having stopped for 65 seconds. Rod Salmon been for a total of 75 seconds stationary time.
So when they take these stops at different times, they will actually drop off the lead lap, which will come back to them when the leaders do actually pit as well. Unless, of course, we have a code 60 come in between hand, and that could mix up the order entirely.
If we were to get a code 60 now, it would be a big advantage for the cars that haven't stopped yet.
Exactly.
Because they'd be able to come in under code 60 while everybody else is trundling around at 60 kilometres an hour rather than a race speed.
And you'll probably end up finishing a lap ahead.
Quite possibly. So Jake Camilleri a bit quicker than Rio Nagara that time around, a 1 minute 0.4 time for Camilleri compared to a 1 minute 1.2 for Rio Nagara. 1.1 seconds separating the two race leaders. John Goodacre up to the 3rd position at this stage in car number 66. He has a compulsory pit stop of 20 seconds. So he's going to be stationary for a fair bit less time than some of the others as well, John Goodacre. As Jake Camilleri closes right onto the tail of Rio Nagara, you get the feeling that Jake Camilleri is another driver who probably could go a lot faster than what he's shown so far, but he's been stuck in traffic for pretty much the entire race.
Maybe he might try and pass him on the track if Nagara doesn't pit shortly. But we've just had Jason Buss come in for a stop-go, which is the only time that he has to pit for. So he'll be advantaged by that. It's a good word, isn't it? Advantaged.
Advantaged. I think might have been the one that you're looking for there.
And right on the back of the race leader is Camilleri at the moment. Just can't seem to find a way around that leading Audi at the point. And maybe just trying to pressure him into making some sort of small mistake. Coming up to put a lap on Peter Boylan's in his Porsche. And now he gets the opportunity, ranges right up, got a better run out of 9 and goes down the inside to 10. And we have a new race leader. 25 minutes left on the clock for this one to go, and Nagara is actually taking the opportunity to slip into the pits.
So rather than fighting too hard with Jake Camilleri for track position, Nagara has decided ideal time to get his compulsory pit stop out of the way.
So I would expect now that Camilleri will probably pit the next lap, and that would put him in front of the Audi when he returns to the track. See pit activity happening while our race leader is still negotiating his way around the track.
So in terms of what actually happens during a pit stop, they can do tyre pressures. The driver can open the door if they want. The person you see standing at the front of the car is the car controller, and he will indicate when it's safe for that car to be released back into the fast lane, and once the compulsory pit stop time has elapsed. A couple of other cars coming in as well. The Ferraris of Jamie Arrington and Scott Booking both into the pits.
And
So Gary Higgin, yep,
is in as well.
and that was just a stop-go for him.
So he will be advantageously looked after there, and I think it's John Goodacre now making his way into the pits, followed by Jeff Morgan, all getting them done now as we pass, or come up to the halfway mark of this race. Nagara back underway and heading out of the pit lane, having an 80-second stop. Very careful not to go too quick down the fast lane. It's hardly called a fast lane now, is it? Can't go very fast on it. Goodacre was in there for just 20 seconds. He can now rejoin as well. So as a result of those stops, I think Salmon has actually come out in front of Nagara, which would make sense because he had a shorter stop.
And off the road, that's Gary Higgin in the 124 KFC Audi. He's fallen off the road. That was down at the fishhook that he came off. He's managed to get back on. And this is Rod Salmon. Oh, down the inside. And this is for position as well. All of these cars have stopped, and you're right. So Rod Salmon is ahead of Rio Nagara. Rick Mentz has come into the pits in the Porsche.
There he is on the screen.
And in comes our leader, Jake Camilleri, as well. Now, the first of the cars that's on the circuit that has already done a compulsory pit stop is John Goodacre.
And he's just going past the start-finish line to chalk up another lap.
So John Goodacre leads this race from Jeff Taunton. They're first and second at the moment. Jason Busk will be third.
We've got Mark Cars running 1, 2 and 3.
So what we'll shortly have is what we could describe as cleansed order, because the entire field will have taken their compulsory pit stops.
Salmon's coming down to turn 10, followed by Nagara, and Camilleri still in the pits.
So this is a slow stop for Jake
Is there a
Camilleri.
drama with the Mark car? Because he's now surrendered the top spots. So going on this, although they're saying Camilleri's still leading the race, so maybe they've just got themselves back on the lead lap. That'd make
Yes,
sense.
I think you're right. Yes.
So it's where they'll be now. Jake's underway, and he would have a sizable lead because the Audis are now coming through turn 8. So by the time he gets under speed again, he will be in front of Salmon and the other Audis.
However, he will be behind Jeff Morgan. So we now have a cleansed field, and it's John Goodacre who leads the race by 6 seconds ahead of Jeff Taunton. Jason Busk is third. Then it's John Nikolovsky in the Ferrari who's in position 4. Rick Menza fifth ahead of Jamie Aratoon, Scott Hooking. Back then to Matt Stupas, Jeff Morgan and Jake Camilleri rounding out your top 10. So this is going to be almost like a mini reverse grid race at this stage, Gary, because we've got some of the faster cars buried in the field, some of the slower cars up near the pointy end, which is exactly how the handicap pit stop system is designed to work.
And that window is now closed, so luckily everyone's been through it. And now we have the opportunity to see a cleansed field about where everyone will stand and try and predict where these cars will all end up in the last 18 odd minutes of this race to go.
Well, John Goodacre could be looking okay here because his lap times have been pretty decent. 60.9 seconds his best lap of the race, which is not that much slower than some of the faster Audis.
Currently watching Peter Boylan coming up with one of the marked cars behind him, the 95 car of Jeff Taunton, who's currently second. There's our race leader, John Goodacre, in the Uzi Pos marked Focus. Notice it doesn't have any Ford badges on that car. uses a band of beverage that he's quite fond of.
So this will give you an idea of some of the gaps through the field. So we've seen Goodacre. This is Jeff Taunton in second. Peter Boylan, who was behind him, is a lap down. So he's out of position. 6.8 seconds between those two marked cars. Jason Busk, third of the marked cars, in position 3, but he's another 17.3 seconds behind Jeff Taunton. And Jason Busk has got a big gaggle of cars coming up on him fairly rapidly. There he is there. So he's got John Nikolovsky behind him, then Rick Menzer, then Matt Stupas, who's the man on the move at the moment. Stupas gets down the inside of Rick Menzer heading into the fishhook to pick up one of those spots. That's a pretty tight bunch of cars at the moment. You've got Jamie Aratoon, Scott Hookey in there as well, Jeff Morgan and Jake Camilleri. And Stupas will get another spot here, gets down the inside of Nikolovsky. Aratoon making the move through on Menzer. So this is all pretty willing. Some of those faster cars that had longer pit stop times having to start to work hard to make up track position.
Actually, Stupas picked up about 3 positions on that lap. He's now moved up to 4th. It's been quite a good lap for him.
The problem, though, is that he's still lapping more slowly than John Goodacre. And that's obviously as a result of the fact that he has been caught in traffic.
Just notice one of the Ferraris using his wiper too. That would be the number 12 car of Nikolovsky. There's our order after 30 laps. Goodacre leads away by 7.1 seconds over Taunton. Busk in third spot, then Stupas, Nikolovsky and Aratoon the next ones.
Stupas now ahead of Busk, so he got through on Busk at the fishhook, so Stupas up to third position.
Ferrari's battling it out. Team cars, and one not relating to the other. And as Riley Harris alluded to, the boys are all having an enjoyable time out there.
What was the quote from Riley? He said to Scott Hookey, "It's okay if you run into your own car."
Yeah.
Well, that's the fact that Scott Hookey owns 2 of the Ferraris.
You don't like to see people running into Ferraris, do you?
No, and I'm sure Scott Hookey would be thinking about the cost to fix both of them as opposed to just one of them.
Here's Jake Camilleri trying to get past Jeff Morgan. That would be for position 8 and 9. And hasn't quite done it yet. And tries to sit down the inside. It's not leaving much room there, Jeff, but he then does eventually have to let him go past. They run side by side through 9.
Jake Camilleri had to use a bit of muscle there to
I
get
think
that
he
one.
did. I think there was a little, here, Jeff, please let me through, or I'll have to just push you a little bit. And that's exactly what he did. 15 minutes to go. And Camilleri moves up one more spot, position 8. Mentor will be the next one he'll be after. And then those pair of fighting Ferraris that you see on screen are the next 2 after that. He's actually not far behind them in reality. Mentor is just in front of Camilleri, and Camilleri's charging in on the Porsche very quickly, almost on its tail in half a lap.
So Matt Stupas has done a good job to get clear of those cars and get himself some free track so that he can start punching out the lap times that Audi is capable of and start hunting down the race leaders. He did a 60.8 second lap time last time around compared to a 61.4 for John Goodacre, so he is quicker than John Goodacre. The problem is that he's just going to run out of time. He's not taking big enough chunks of time out of Goodacre's margin to be able to catch him before the end of the race.
We would imagine at this stage that Camilleri again will be chasing down an Audi, not the same one. Well, it's exact. Yeah, it is the same car as in the first race. That to try and get a position in the end, we're assuming that Camilleri should get past the 2 Ferraris fairly quickly. Then he'll have Busk to get through to get to Stupas, and Stupas is 24 seconds off the lead at the moment.
So Matt Stupas, based on the fact that he qualified on pole position, he's third in this race at the moment. and he finished third in race one earlier on. I think that with positions as they are at the moment, he would win the round based on points from qualifying in the 2 races. So Stupas potentially, provisionally, looking good for his first round win in GT1 Australia, but there are still plenty of laps to go as we see the Ferrari swapping positions.
And the Porsches behind him fighting amongst themselves as well. So the Marks all having their own little battles, and the Scott Hookie car coming up on them too. So a battle of 5 here in next to no time. And you can see that Cavalieri right on the back of Busk now to try and get that position, and he will get him up the hill. Goes past before turn 3. He's only got Stupas ahead of him on the road, and then Taunton is quite a gap, quite a way, 15.8 seconds from second to third. And at the moment, Goodacre has a handy 8.7 second lead over effectively almost a teammate, I suppose, even though they don't operate under the one umbrella. They are both marked cars. There's Salmon in the background trying to make up places as well, and there's just a wall of cars in front of him, and it's mainly Ferraris and Porsches as he's trying to battle his way through. Looking down the inside, it's amazing that in a straight line there's not a great deal of difference between any of them. It's just how fast they corner and how much better they are getting on and off the gas, i.e. braking areas, and that seems to be the difference between the various models.
The Audi's certainly very quick through the mid-corner, and that has typically been their strength. Obviously all of the GT3 cars with the FIA homologation, they run to the BOP, the balance of performance formula that's designed to equalise the performance between different manufacturers and models. And at Bathurst, at the 12-hour, for quite a few years, some of the Audi drivers have complained that the car's very quick over the top but lose out in a straight line. And while that is okay in qualifying, it can make it difficult in race conditions where you can get stuck behind cars that are slower up in the corners but quicker on the straights.
Yeah, well, that's right. If you were getting passed up the hill, there was no way you were going to get back across the top of the mountain. But if you were in front till you get to the twisty bits, then you could extend your lead. I hurt the Audis there a couple of years ago quite badly. There's this battle going on here with Busk just ahead of Aratoon, and you'll find his teammate wouldn't be too far adrift. Salmon still having difficulties getting past the Porsches. And it's probably one place you probably don't get past the Porsches under brakes. Very strong there, and Hookie chases Salmon through turn 9. What this has done as far as Salmon's concerned is allowed Rio Nagara to close up somewhat, as he currently sits in position 12. So from effectively being the front running cars early on, they've dropped well down the field, haven't they?
And that's obviously as a result of the longer compulsory pit stop that they've had to serve as a result of their front running results in race 1. Salmon's not finding it easy to get past these Porsches. They're defending pretty vigorously. Jeff Morgan in particular, not making it easy for Rod Salmon to get past, and he's losing a lot of time stuck behind these slower cars.
Hasn't had a great run in the GT1 Australia Series. Crash at the opening round at Mallala.
That was a big crash too. He's had a couple of big shunts in the Audi this year when you think about it. And down
Finally,
the inside,
but
this
finally
time he
does it.
gets it done.
But now he's got another one to get past. So he gets past Morgan and now has to find a way to get past Mensa. And you can see just behind them there is Nagara as well. In the meantime, the gap between our front runners. Still about the same as what it's been between the two marked cars, but the gap between second and third has dropped a couple of seconds. It's now 11.4 seconds. And Salmon does get past Menza, picks up that spot. And just ahead of him is this dice between the marked car and the Ferrari of Nikolovsky, and Nikolovsky actually gets past Busk.
That's actually Jamie Aronson, I think you'll find there. So
beg your pardon.
Nikolovsky, it's very easy to get those cars mixed up because they run very similar paint schemes. Aronson, though, does get ahead of Jason Busk to move up inside the top 5. Rod Salmon now ahead of Rick Menza as well. And here comes Rio Nagara, our race 1 winner. Let's see how he is overtaking cars. He's got plenty of them to try and pick off in the remaining 7 minutes of
He's
this
had
race.
plenty of time to see where Rod Salmon got past him, so maybe he can work on that theory and do what Salmon did to get through maybe turn 10 if he can outbrake one of these Porsches. Again, 7 minutes to go, 39 laps in the book. Goodacre leads by 8.9 seconds over Jeff Taunton. Stupers third, Camilleri fourth, Aaron Turner fifth, and Busk rounds out our top 6. There goes another positional change with Salmon going past Busk. And now we'll try and get to Araturn. But there is a Porsche in between them. That's a Peter Boylan lap car. And Peter does the wise thing, just gets out of the way, allows it through. So now Salmon's got a better run out of turn 2. Should get past the Ferrari up the hill and does so. So Salmon's now clear of all that. And that puts him up into P5.
So it took him a little while, but he's finally worked his way past all of that congestion, as mentioned, to get himself up into the top 5.
And as far as he's concerned, Nagara's still behind all those cars, so he knows that he can't be challenged from behind with such limited time left in this one to go. And I would suspect that Nagara would love to get in front of these cars, possibly elevate himself up from where he currently is in 11th spot and maybe get as high as, say, 7th. But as he's seen so far, it hasn't been easy to do that.
And yeah, I was just about to say, I heard some brakes being locked up in the background, and that's Jason Busk, who has bunkered it in the sand at turn number 2.
That will mean a code 60.
Yep, cause our second code 60 that we've seen in the GT1 category this weekend, and we've only got 4 minutes and 50 seconds remaining on the clock, so we could end up with a situation where the race finishes under code 60 conditions.
Indeed.
And yep, the code 60 has been called. So everybody slows down to 60 kilometres an hour and maintains the positions that they were in at the time and the margins relative to one another.
And one would suspect that, as we said, with 4.5 minutes or less than 4.5 minutes to go, it's not likely that we might go back to green racing conditions, although officials are getting out there pretty quickly.
So while we're under this code 60 situation, Kylie King's got an update for us from pit lane.
At the moment, I've got Joe Sasso, engineer for Matt Stroopers, obviously focusing on what's happening
Yep.
here. What are your thoughts? What are you telling him?
Just to stay calm and to focus, really. So don't make any mistakes. That's what I just reinforced with Matt. And yeah, I'll just give him something to work on every lap, and then that keeps his focus up, which is good.
Yeah, Yeah, so far so good, and who knows what happens from here on in. But it's been a great weekend for him.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, and he's really stepped it up, and he's doing a lot of things outside the car with his fitness as well, and it's proving itself today, which is great. Yeah.
So quick in qualifying, doing well today.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Can't ask for any more than that.
All right, I've probably held you long enough. Thanks. Mate.
Great, thanks. Thank you.
Camera shy is young Joe, so I did well to get away with him.
It probably confirms what you were saying, Lockie, that you mentioned that he's probably going to be the round winner.
Correct, because again, points are awarded for qualifying the same as they are for the races. So you get as many points for pole position as you do for a race win. So that combined with third place in both of the races, I'm pretty sure, based on my mental arithmetic, that'll be enough for him to win the round overall when you look at the other results that the other drivers have achieved. He's been the most consistent.
Indeed, and good thing is that Jason Busk is back underway, and we may actually go back to race conditions for the final 2 minutes once we get those service vehicles off the track, and they're starting to move now. So that's been very efficient work from our officials.
Yeah, that's been a great job. In fact, while we are under Code 60, let's just take this chance to thank all of our ever hard-working volunteer officials, flag marshals, fire rescue and recovery crews, all of the volunteers in race control as well, because they've done a sterling job. And let's be honest here, the weather conditions have not been easy for them this weekend, so we do greatly appreciate the support of all of our officials and volunteers. Fair bit of garbage coming out of the Jason Busk car as well. Hopefully he hasn't dumped too much of that on the racing line as we go green once again with 1 minute and 40 seconds remaining on the clock. Rio Nagara looking to make an opportunistic move on Jeff Morgan, and he's done it as well, but he gives away a spot in the process because Scott Hookie gets past.
Gets one Porsche, but one Ferrari nabs him in the bargain. There's Rick Menzer trying to put another lap on Peter Boylan, and Peter at this stage not having any of it. Now he does. No, he doesn't.
Rio Nagara had the right idea there. He was thinking about reacting really quickly at the end of the Code 60 and seeing if he could grab some positions, and he almost pulled it off, but just ran a little bit wide there at turn number 2. And now it'll be Scott Hookie who has to try and go past Peter Boylan. A bit awkward there, and that'll create a chance for Rio Nagara, who looks left, looks right. In the end, has to slot back in behind Scott Hookie.
And these are all, well, apart from Peter Boylan, these are all racing for position. I think Peter Boylan got a bit of a day to argue out of that last corner as well. Seemed to be a bit of mudguard to mudguard contact. There's our race leader, and it's about 20 odd seconds to this one, so it'll be one more lap. And it's been a good comeback from John Goodacre, pushed out of the first race on the opening lap, and to come back and win this race is probably makes today worthwhile.
Good recovery drive, and important for him to salvage some points as well, because he was third in the standings coming into this round. Jeff Taunton, also a driver mounting good recovery after that issue that he had where he damaged the suspension components in the car, using a bit too much of the curbs in race number 1. He's bounced back well too and looking good for a second place finish in this race. And there's Matt Stupas on screen with Jake Camilleri right on his tail. Those two cars have been pretty much inseparable for most of the weekend. They've been nose to tail in both races. They were qualifying on the front row together, but the checkered flag is at the ready. Here comes John Goodacre out of the last corner.
And Jake Camilleri gets past Stupas in the battle for third. Enterprising move there from the Mark Cars Australia driver, and comes down. He will finish third. So after Audi's finished first, second and third in race 1, we've got Mark V8s finishing first, second and third in race 2.
Indeed we do, but congratulations to Matt Stupas, because even with that move on the last lap, he will still win the round. His first round win in GT1 Australia. Rod Salmon finishing up in 5th position. I think Rod Salmon and Jake Camilleri will be the other drivers who will be on the podium in terms of the overall weekend results. Jamie Aratoon, John Nikolovsky in 6th and 7th spot And then it's Rick Menzer, Rio Nagara, and Scott Hookey rounding out our top 10 finishes for race number 2 for GT1 Australia.
You've got to tip your hat a bit to the two Ferrari drivers finishing so well in this race. They weren't sparing the medal, pushing each other, and what a good result for the teammates.
There's no doubt that both of those drivers will have had a lot of fun during that contest.
Let me welcome the round winners to the podium for the Mazda RX8 Cup Series. Third is Stephen McLean, to be presented by Sarah Ackley from the AMRS. Second is Will Harris. And our winner, first for the weekend, Rick Shaw. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your Mazda RX8 Cup podium for the Wakefield Park round of the AMRS. Our final podium for the weekend is for the miniature race cars. Sarah Ackley joining me for the presentations for the podium. Third for the weekend, Peter Griffiths. Second, Brad Lemon. And our winner, Craig McWhite. This is your winner's podium for the Wakefield Park round of the AMRS. Well, that's a wrap for round 4 of the AMRS series from Wakefield Park. A little bit of a chilly weekend, a little bit of rain, but the passion for the motorsport, the excellent racing, and a few surprise results along the way. Lachlan Mansell, lead commentator for the weekend. What are your takeouts for this?
Well, I always love endurance racing, Kylie, and we had a couple of thrillers in the GT1 Australia category, particularly the first race where it came right down to the wire. Great battle between the two Audi drivers with Rod Salmon and Rio Nagara going head-to-head. Good to see Rio getting his first win, and good to see John Goodacre bouncing back in the second race to take the win as well. So the GT1 races were fantastic. RX8s and Legend cars were entertaining again, and even in the combined race with the stock cars, the Aussie Racing Utes and the Super 6 touring cars, good to see different cars dicing for positions as well, and the strengths and weaknesses of different cars coming to the fore in different parts of the circuit. What's been your highlight?
Well, I think it's a bit much the same, the GT1, because I spent a lot of time in the pits sort of doing some interviews with some of the guys, and I spotted Ryle Harris on the pit wall. He's often seen in the Super Utes, so it's great to see sort of him floating around, and obviously Glenn Seaton with his son Aaron competing on the weekend. So for me, it was a chance to catch up with some familiar names who really seem to be embracing a lot of the categories that are involved in the AMRS. So that was terrific. And just to see the smiles on people's faces. You've got, what I also love too, is you've got these young up-and-coming racing car drivers using this series to really show themselves. And then you've got some guys that are just loving it, wanting to get out, have some fun, enjoy the weekend with their family. So it kind of had a little bit of both for me, so that was terrific.
Yeah, it's a mixture of everything. There really is something for everyone in the AMRS. We do have to thank our ever hard-working volunteer officials, our flag marshals, fire rescue and recovery crews, and all of the volunteers up in race control as well. It has been challenging weather conditions this weekend. You know about it only too well because you've been in the pits and the paddock in 8 degrees and below temperatures today, covering all of the action and finding out all of the news stories. So think about the officials who've had to stand out in this weather and rain yesterday all weekend.
That's okay. It's motorsport. It's winter. We've got to expect that. And we're all passionate about it, so why wouldn't we be here enjoying it?
I'm sure we'll have some lovely spring weather up in Sydney when the AMRS heads to Sydney Motorsport Park for the next round on the 26th to the 28th of October. Looking forward to seeing you all trackside at that one or on the live stream thanks to Blendline TV.
And thank you for having me on board. Really enjoying it so far.
Thanks, it's been an absolute pleasure. All right, well, there we go. That's a wrap from round number 4 of the AMRS here at Wakefield Park. Look forward to seeing you all up in Sydney at the end of October.